Andrew Wilson and Muslim debater Daniel Hukikachu collide in Nashville, Tennessee this November 15th and 16th at DebateCon 6 on whether or not Christian or Islamic values are better for society. You don't want to miss it. Grab your tickets by clicking on this link right now so you don't miss out on this epic debate conference featuring that debate and many others.
Hey everybody, tonight we're debating Christianity or secular humanism, which is better for society, and we are starting right now with Jimbob's opening statement. Thanks for being with us, made by Jimbob. The floor is all yours.
All right, thank you. Thanks for being here, Paul. Thanks, James, for organizing this. So what is better for society, Christianity, or secularism? Now, I want to define society. It seems like a given, but I think we should get rigorous here. The aggregate of people living together in a more or less ordered community. I'll define secularism as well, denoting attitudes, activities, or other things that have no religious or spiritual basis. Now, notice that the definition of society assumes an order. When we ask, is it better for society, we're already assuming societies themselves should exist, which is a normative position on having an ordered system. We're also assuming an arm of force. If we want something ordered in a society, we're going to want some force in that society to keep it ordered. Now, if you've been following the trend of debates around secularism and Christianity, you'll have noticed that the secular position includes only descriptive bullet points of how things are. Sometimes they add in what they would like, but they never really jump to how things ought to be. The secular position does not produce a prescriptive claim about creating and maintaining an ordered society. There's a reason. The reason for this is the secular worldview has no obligations or duties. What does it have is a set of descriptions followed by a set of personal grievances and requests that more or less might be shared with other people who are secular, and even Christians, even theists might share their grievances. Let's take marriage, for example. The secular view demands an equal marriage status for all, but has no duty to marry or stay married. Secularism demands an opportunity for same-sex individuals, for example, to outsource children, but it has no duty to form a family, nor can it provide a duty for women to rent their wombs out to other people for a family. The secular view often advocates for welfareism and charity, but it has no duty or obligation to be charitable or philanthropic. If your ethical system does not provide a set of duties and obligations, then there is no standard for individual responsibility or accountability. From a Christian view, however, a Christian can call out another Christian for not fulfilling on their Christian duties and obligations. We can say, "You're not being a good Christian." In contrast, a secularist cannot call out another secularist and say, "You're not being a good secularist." There's no such thing. There are no duties to fulfill on. You can't call out someone else for not fulfilling on something that they have no obligation for. So there is no being a bad secularist. For example, let's say there's a guy named Doug who's a secular atheist, but based on his preferences, he actually advocates and aligns with Christian ethics and policies. That would mean that he has a view of the nation that its policies and law should be informed by Christian ethics. Meanwhile, he doesn't actually believe in God. He's still actually a secularist. He votes for Christian conservatives. He prefers to live around Christians. He just doesn't believe in the theology or the value, but he just believes in the values that come from the theology. The question I would have for my opponent, anyone like him, is Doug properly a secularist, or is he being a bad secularist? Can the fellow secularist argue against his position, taking a Christian approach to, I don't know, nationalism or how to run the town? Is he being a good secularist, or is he being a Christian? So I don't think they can. Why is it a major problem for secularists in regard to what's better for society? Well, if a secularist can't hold another secularist responsible for being a bad secularist, then there are no duties and obligations under secularism at all. Then on what basis can they argue one system is better than the other? In fact, you could probably have a variety of secularists get on a panel and they might not even agree on what's better. One might take a strict utilitarian approach, one might take another approach, right? Consequential approach, and so forth. They won't really agree on it. In other words, if you swap me out right now for a secularist who advocates for Christian ethics, you would have to debate between two secularists. And Paul here probably couldn't argue against the a secularist who's holding a Christian ethical position without believing in all of the nonsense from their view? How could he argue they're being an incorrect secularist? It's just following their preferences, after all. Now, let's move on to another problem secularists has, given that society requires people, which secularism has no duties or obligations to make children. It follows that we would teach children, we would be included in the metric for what constitutes a better society. We'd have to include the next generations. So let me ask the audience, which is better to teach children so far as a worldview anyway? A Christian view that they were made by a loving creator with purpose, obligations, and duties, that their life has meaning, that there's moral value, and that forgiveness, humility, patience are virtues. Sacraments like marriage and having children are also included in their worldview. Or is it better to teach them that they are a result of a cosmic accident followed by a long process of unguided chemical reactions we call existence, which is utterly meaningless and has no greater purpose? All of your thoughts and actions, little Jimmy, are determined by strict material causes, and there is no moral truth, just matter in motion. Now, please do your homework. It's really important to do well in school. Now, it doesn't matter if my opponent holds the exact view. All that matters is whether or not the view is a secular view. It would be totally fine and consistent with secularism to teach every child that the view that their life is entirely meaningless, that it's all just a crafted illusion, that you make your own meaning, it's all bottom up, and ultimately live your truth, bro, kind of like Oprah would say. So the question becomes, how can a secular system be better for people if it has no duties or obligations? If they reject duties and obligations, you can't have accountability. And so I would just pose it in a very simple way. If you have two societies, one has fairly homogeneous, agreeable duties and obligations, including which include procreating, making more people. Is that a better society than one that has no moral obligations or duties? I think so, just based on that alone. Now, we can get into what else it means to be secular, but the problem is whether Paul refers to the Secular Manifesto or any kind of article by a secular he likes, I'm not sure what he's telling us we ought to do. I'll finish with this. Sometimes I'm not going to jump the gun here, but sometimes the secularists will say, well, I have no problem with people believing in things. I just don't want it imposed. I just don't want you to use force for your beliefs, to force your beliefs on me. I'm going to argue tonight that that's actually impossible to not do under an ordered system, including a secularist view, that secularists hold views and hold beliefs that they're more than willing to use force to deploy upon the public. I have no problem with that. I would just say, well, you got to grant the same opportunity to Christians who want to do the same thing. Everybody, like Paul said in his comical retweet, I appreciated that, Paul. He said, I'm debating some Christian on who should rule the world. I thought that was actually pretty good. If we were fully honest with each other, we're kind of saying that, but let's start at the town level. Let's start at the city level. Let's start at the state and the country level. At least we're in agreement that we're trying to seize control and deliver our worldview and have our worldview and our government informed by our belief structures. So with that, I'm going to I have 2 more minutes, but that's pretty much what I'm starting with here, and I hope to have a good debate and a fruitful conversation tonight.
Thank you very much for that opening statement made by Jimbob. And folks, I want to let you know, if you are here for the first time, I'm your host, Dr. James Coons. We are a fully neutral platform hosting debates on science, religion, and politics. We hope you feel welcome no matter what walk of life you're from. If you look at the bottom right of your screen, DebateCon is upon us. It's our 6th conference. Folks, it's in Nashville, Tennessee, November 15th and 16th. Grab your tickets now. In fact, I'm going to let a promo code out during this stream so you can get 10% off. Made by Jimbob is going to be there. Come out and meet him, see him debate. Meet Andrew Wilson, see him debate. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be huge. But we're going to kick it over to Paul's Ego. Thrilled to have you here. The floor is all yours for your opening statement.
All right, sorry for that. Thank you for having me. I appreciate, like Jimbob said, to extend the thank you to you for hosting and to Jimbob for being here. great opening statement by Jimbob. I thought he asked a lot of interesting questions, and I was taking notes along the way. Now, he was very well prepared, very well spoken guy. I, argue or debate a little differently. I like to ask questions, and I like to play off of, what the person has said and dig a little deeper. And so I wanted to tell Jimbob here at the top, nice soy out shirt. I didn't notice it the first time, but the soy out shirt is, I don't know if you can put him up real quick there, but it's real good. Maybe we'll look at it next time you're up.
Yeah. I made it myself. I did the old iron on. Thank you for that.
Oh, can you show us the back one time since you're up?
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. Oh, it's beautiful. That's me back there. That's me. yeah, that's me back there. No, that's
Nice.
a beautiful thing. Thank you for that. I like that shirt. You should sell them because I'd buy one.
Okay.
I'm glad you got the joke on the tweet too, because I like that framework. Because honestly, it adds complexity, but it's also it simplifies things. I think a little bit. Because we can look at the broad strokes, and that's what I'm better at. I'll just be honest with you. So let's go down the list here. You said that secular humanism would have no prescriptions beyond personal grievance with how things are. And I would agree with you on that. I won't even challenge that. It'll be probably a constant theme tonight, I would imagine, listening to your open statement that I'm going to use the term herding cats a lot, but I do think that applies also to Christians. I mean, there's a lot of different belief within Christianity, a lot of different denominations and different churches and people that don't go to church within Christianity, that don't believe that's necessary, that have a very personal relationship with Christianity. Also, you used a term welfarism. I'd like to dig a little deeper into that if we could, but if we don't, we don't have to. I don't want to get aside, but I wasn't sure what you meant by welfarism. So he said, you're not, I wrote, you're not being a good secularist. Yeah, I wouldn't say that. But once again, I would lean heavily on the herding cats thing. I'm not trying to dodge the question. I just don't think good secularist is, I didn't even like the word secularist, to be honest. I'm taking the position, but I don't really like the term all that much. I guess I am a secularist, ultimately. But I wouldn't tell another secularist, you're being a bad secularist. I mean, I call that the no true Scotsman fallacy, right? It's like no true secularist would take that semi-Christian perspective, or that culturally Christian, whatever I'm not sure what words you use, but that a perspective that aligns with Christianity. So I would never say that to another secularist, but I do know secularists that would. I can't answer for them, but I can answer for myself. One of the things I like about secularism is that it doesn't have a dogmatic, prescriptive nature to it. That it allows for a society that could possibly change throughout time, right? If some new machine is invented, morality could be bent by that machine, right? And I think it's important for society to be able to adapt to that. I would bring up guns, right? I'm a big gun advocate, by the way. I love the first and the second. I'm a big advocate for both. But I also think that it's a pretty good argument that the founders probably didn't intend us to all have a musket is not a modern machine gun. That means I don't want to get into guns, but aligns with disparity of belief in Christianity. I was going to ask you if you think that the disparity amongst secularists could be mirrored a little bit in the disparity amongst prescriptions that Christians would give. Is Doug a good or bad secularist? I think I answered that to the best of my ability anyway, but you can dig a little deeper with me. The best for the times, not the best Christian. Oh yeah. So I would advocate leadership wise, who's the best for the times, not who's the best secularist or Christian. So I'm not totally opposed to a Christian running the nation, so long as they respect the fact that there are people here that don't believe exactly how they are. And hey, if a Christian is the best person for the job at the time we need a Christian, I'm all for it. Okay. But if a secularist is the person for the job, I'm all for that too. So I don't know if that's, a position we can talk about. I would ask, what's better for children, an unflinching dogma or a questioning mind that allows for them to kind of maybe choose for themselves? Like, to give you a little example of that, I was raised nominally Christian in the church. And then in my late teens, early 20s, became an atheist. I was a real hardcore atheist for a while. I was watching Jimbob tear up a dude earlier that was like one of these atheists that makes all these real like hard proclamations and uses all this provocative language to try to get Christians to get mad. I used to do that, man. I used to rage bait and do that. I don't do that anymore because I'm a spiritual guy now, right? I'm not a Christian. I'm a Taoist. It's not something that I push on people. It's an Eastern religion. It's personal. I meditate with it. I spend time in nature. But I'm still an atheist. The Tao is not a creator God. It's a motive force. It's a chain. It's incessant change, right? It is the universe in totality. So anyway, just for reference, that's the perspective I'm coming from, right? But it's a personal perspective. How can secular system be better for people if you have no duties and obligations? I don't think that secularists would argue for no duties or obligations. I think most of the secularists that I've met, if not all of them, have had obligations and duties to their job, to their families, to their loved ones and stuff, and they fulfill those. But I see what you mean from the leadership perspective. If there's no top-down prescription, you must do X, Y, or Z. I would argue that there is no top-down prescription now saying you must treat your wife nicely. But I would argue that most people probably do. Maybe that I'm overestimating humanity. So is procreation a moral obligation? That's just a question I would ask because you kind of talked about it as a possible moral obligation, especially given the times. And I would say that like no forced beliefs. That was kind of what you ended on. And I agree with that. That is one of the worries that I would have in a Christian-dominated or Christian nationalist society is I'm not going to believe because you tell me to. In fact, I'm likely to believe less if you really push me. And I don't want there to be that kind of negativity in the world or that kind of, because that, where that ends, you push somebody, they push back, but eventually there's going to be, I'm not that type of guy, but eventually somebody's going to start shooting and I hate that. So anyway, I'll yield back the balance of my time. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that opening statement as well. Folks, want to let you know, as I had mentioned, there is a discount code for DebateCon that you can see at the bottom right of your screen. The discount code is SAVE 10 from stream. So 10 and then from stream. If you are using the code during this debate, it's working. It's only going to be working during the debate. So you have to use it quick. It's 10% off as many tickets as you want to use. With that, we're going to jump into the open dialogue. Gentlemen, thank you very much. The floor is all yours.
Yeah, there's a couple things there. I'm actually interested in the dogma one because I used to be someone who went away from my upbringing and was like, you guys are dogmatic, Yeah. And I was like, well, what's a dogma? Definitionally, a dogma is like a belief that's held and can't be moved, essentially. Would you agree? Right. Like something like that?
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, I'd go with that.
And then, but I realized that I think it was my dad who finally pinned me on this. He turned it back on me and asked if it was a dogmatic belief to be anti-dogmatic, and I had to concede.
Well, only a Sith deals in absolutes is one of those statements as well, because it's an absolute statement. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it though. Yeah, it's wordplay, but does it answer the question?
Yeah, I think the answer is dogma is impossible, even from a basic view of like the Constitution and Bill of Rights, where our children are born into a reality where they dogmatically accept something called a human right or right, correct? Now, would you agree that that's a belief, that rights itself is a matter of a belief in the thing, but it's not empirically grounded. You don't grab a right, you don't measure a right. It's a term that we what if we had rights, right? Like
our founding fathers argued about this before they made this. Well, I'm not sure if you are an American. We talked. Mm-hmm. So Yeah, our founding fathers argued about this. You know what I mean? That from whence cometh the moral prescription, right? Is it a natural thing? Is it from a more deistic perspective? Is it God? Is it the Christian God? And these things were debated pretty roundly by and still are by guys that are way smarter than me. I won't speak to your intelligence, but
Definitely me too.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you're comfortable with this. Is I don't know okay at this
Yeah.
early stage
Absolutely,
in the
yeah.
combo? Okay.
Well, the reason I go the rights route is I usually, if an atheist like you, the ones you mentioned who are very aggressive, they're like, "Don't force your beliefs," and I go, "You don't force your beliefs," and they say, "No way, I would never do that." And I say, "Do you believe in rights?" And they go, "Yes," and I go, "What if I didn't? Isn't that a type of forced belief?" And I would say, "Yes." And we have this flinching reaction as if forcing to, at any level, forcing your belief on someone is wrong, but it's not. Like you said, maybe it's better to raise your kid with an open mind, not dogmatic. Well, even doing the opposite of dogma would be some sort of controlled operation of how they learn. We're stewards of our kids and the world, so there's no escaping some level of like dogma or indoctrination. Even when we teach people, we have to we either get really firm with our foundation or we kind of hedge our bets and say, well, I'm going to do a Montessori style learning where the kid just kind of runs freely and decides his own fate, as opposed to, well, what if it's better for kids to be given fairly strict guidelines that they can still press against, but it doesn't mean we remove the guidelines simply because they're pressing against them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It makes sense. It's almost okay. So I'm very passionate about education. I worked in education for a long time, not as a teacher, but I was a tech guy. Worked right with kids and teachers, training them and supporting their stuff, their technology. And I became very politically active in like the union stuff that I did and supporting the teachers, because I feel like neither secularism or religion right now has an answer to the crisis of if you indoctrinate your children into religion, fine. If you specifically refuse to indoctrinate them and raise them to be a free spirit, fine. If they can't read by the time they graduate the fourth grade, I don't want to use bad language with a Christian, but we are fucked.
They can't read
either way. If they can't read. And some sobering statistics for you, 75 to 80% of Americans, and this is from 2022, so I don't think it's gotten better, read at or below a fourth grade level.
Paul, I'll ask you, and I know I'm not trying to do a quick move here, but I just want to ask you, I know there's other variables, but isn't it the case that when America was more so Christian and there was more Christian schools, people had a higher level of reading?
Yeah, well, I would say that if you went back, even to my generation, I got a really good education in comparison, and I got a real look at it because I grew up in this school system, and then I worked at those very same schools that I grew up in. So I saw the difference between what I got and what kids now get. And its class sizes are huge now. They used to be 15 to 1. Now they're 40 to 1 in a lot of California schools, at least. I won't speak for other states. And it just seems to get worse and worse, right? And I don't hear anything that I think would fix it. Now, I might agree with you. We go back to the 50s. Were there more illiterate people in the 50s? I don't know for sure, but I would guess not. And the 50s was undeniably a stricter, more Christian kind of environment. I would cede that to you easily. I just don't know if correlation and causation are happening here, right? They're not necessarily the same, right?
Yeah, that's true. But I'm also looking at it from a larger worldview. Like, for instance, I had in my opening, if children are learning at a fairly young age, whether it's indirectly or directly, that there's no God, maybe that seeps in, or there's no purpose to life. You just kind of make it up. We're an accident, right? Kids are taught they're an accident in the secular view, right? That's the entailment of what they're taught. And so
I would never say that to a kid, though. And I know a lot of secularists that wouldn't use the term "you're a fucking accident."
That's right. But ultimately, it would be like, we're an accident.
Okay.
We're
no, I mean, I don't no. Accidents imply like oopsie daisy, the paint spilled, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like, somebody had to spill the paint if there's an accident. And
That's very good. Very good.
but that's the thing is an atheist wouldn't like from my perspective, and once again, I'm not a cosmologist.
Yeah.
But an atheist that would proffer the Big Bang, I don't think they would say that there was anybody that whoopsie daisied it. So accident wouldn't apply in their worldview.
Well,
Or
that's
mine,
it.
really.
I actually agree with you. I point out that to say anything's accidental is to say that there's a purpose that it went away from, right? We both agree with that. That the problem is it's not actually a peculiar small thing under the atheist view to hold the view that we as human beings, as people, we are the result of a long process that wasn't guided by anything in person. Now, I don't know if you believe that, but I'm saying a secularist, an atheist could posit this to you, and you might say, well, I don't really believe that, and you might not have a substitute answer for what we are and why we are.
Yeah.
But from that view, that long view that space collisions then created by chance a perfect environment for life, and then by chance life emerged from non-life, and by chance we're thinking, right? You and I are thinking rational beings, but from this physicalist view that's often through the lens of public education, which is largely secular, this physicalist view removes any sort of teleology, which is a fancy word for higher purpose. There is no higher purpose. So, Paul, I mean, wouldn't it make sense if there's no higher purpose, wouldn't it be necessarily harder for kids to find a purpose why they should learn to read? Like why even learn, why even progress toward anything if there's nothing to go toward anyway? Like life is like just this accidental bubble and might as well just have fun. Well, if that's the view, I honestly agree with them. If they're consistent, there's no reason to do good in school. Why? So you can work a job that you're then in debt for, and then maybe you rent a car to get to the job, then you're in debt for the car, and then you finally get a house. And it's like debt cycle.
Yeah.
Well, if they're material, if pure materialism in the sense of our only purpose in life is to experience things in the material world and maybe collect items. And then if we're lucky, we have kids and we pass our items down and maybe some land or whatever. That's a very nihilistic view. And my criticism of secularism, at least, and you said you're partially like lean towards spiritualism, which I'm happy to hear from a diversion from pure secularism, which does actually result in a type of nihilism. Now, what kind of environment in school or in society would you expect if it's downstream from nihilism? I think we're looking at it, Paul. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. And maybe you're correct. I'm willing to give that. I'm what's called an agnostic atheist. I don't know if you've heard the term.
Sure.
But I'm willing to accept new evidence. I'm not close-minded to being a Christian. If you can, and I've done my due diligence. I have, not to reveal too much, but my brother-in-law is a pastor of a church. My sister's very devout Christian. She raises all her children in that. I don't have children, and so we have to go into theoretical land.
Sure.
But I would ask you: do you know the term "baby Christian" as a Christian guy? You heard it before?
Yeah, I've heard the term.
When somebody's a new Christian, they are very zealous and their knowledge is low, but their zealotry is high. Yeah,
convert zeal, we call that in orthodoxy. I'm also have been guilty of it, so I know.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I talked a little bit about my 8 days as an atheist content creator, which is how I started here on YouTube and stuff, or wherever we are. I think we're on YouTube, right? Yeah, we are on YouTube. But anyway, we might be other places too. But we should all, by the way, be at DebateCon, not to, coming up here pretty soon. I'm just, I just apropos of nothing. But what I was saying is there are baby atheists as well. When you're raised in kind of a domineering Christian environment, everybody wants to rebel against their parents, and you're young, and atheism is cool and edgy, and you hear Christopher Hitchens or Richard Dawkins say something totally fucking smart. You want to repeat it, and then you see a Christian, and you go, "You're a fundy, you're a Christ-tard," whatever these things we used to use back in the day, right? And then I feel like in the same way that a baby Christian grows out of that, is they broaden their perspective by studying the Bible and listening to their pastor and going on their own journey with God, right?
Sure.
I think an atheist, as they mellow and mature, come to a more mature position on it as well, right? And I see parity in that. I see humanity in that, not necessarily a prescription towards Christianity or secularism.
Yeah, well, I do a lot of content kind of looking at people who leave Christianity and go full on atheism. So they might be a baby Christian at some point, and then they, in their view, they graduate from this archaic, silly fantasy world, and then they actually start like YouTube counter ministries, and you'll notice that they're actually formatted exactly the same as the church that they came from. They're just swapping the content,
Right?
and then
right,
they do atheist meetups, and then you're like, but why are we meeting up? And it's in protest of something particular, but it's not always for something. It's like a lot of times against it. So I totally understand that phenomenon, and I've been a part of it. And ultimately, if we look at society as a whole, I think that the fact that Christianity has a structure, I would even argue, Paul, and you might concede to this, it might be the case, even if Christianity wasn't true, that the structure of it is better than no structure.
That, yeah. I mean, if we're talking about total anarchy, chaos, there's no layer to society where anybody can say stop this and nobody can enforce that, then yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to take it to its super extreme, but that's what I think when you when you say nothing, right? It's Christianity or nothing. Yeah, I would say I would live in the Christian world by far anytime.
Right.
Because at least there's a set of prescriptions there that I could at least try and follow, even if I didn't believe it. I could try and follow and fit into that society, and I don't think it's hard to not steal and murder. I'm just not that type of person. It wouldn't be hard. It's not hard for me to not rape. Yeah, them, so I'd be okay, I think, in a Christian society.
Yeah, and you might actually be partial to a Christian society, knowing that they have some homogeny, a shared value system, that they see each other as made in God's image, and that they hold each other accountable. The question I would have in response to that is, if you conceded that even a general Christian foundation where there's expectation of behavior, you said that would be good in the absence, in contrast to nothing. But I think what I'm arguing here, Paul, is that secularism doesn't have the positive position of something. So I'm arguing, Paul, that secularism is so nebulous that it might as well be nothing.
Well, I would say that it doesn't have a positive view of something that's written on stone tablets. There's a positive view of lots of things that are mutable, which I know it rubs Christians the wrong way. Immutability is what the Bible is, from a Christian worldview. And from a scientific, more secular worldview, the mutability of science is why I believe it. Because if science is proved wrong, like if a scientist can come along and say, hey, this experiment didn't work, then science changes. I'm almost done. What happens with Christians when something like that happens is a new excuse is made, I feel. It's God hiding the bones. It's God, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. I
see. Yeah, so I think the dichotomy of science versus religion, I actually put them in separate categories. Science, I'm pretty strict on what science is as a methodology. And the value of science is that it's mostly wrong. That's the joy of it, is that you can null a hypothesis and you can disprove something because it's falsifiable. But if I'm not going to, not that you said it, but I just want to be sure that and you admit that currently, science actually has a lot of dogma now socially, that people run with views of the world, views of the past, views of where we came from.
I don't necessarily disagree, but could you give me like one or two specific examples where you feel like scientific dogma is being pushed?
Sure. There's a view that we all come from one single thing, and they name this thing Luca. That is to say, all of the diversity of everything, if you go back and sort of go backwards in time with a rewind button, it would all come from a singular thing. And when I ask someone in a debate, what is that singular thing? They say, I don't know. I said, well, who named it? They say, I don't know. It's an acronym. And I said, how do you name something that you have no way of verifying, that you imagined out of your head, that existed in a time frame you can't possibly witness? Isn't there a little bit of faith going on? And they hate that word. I don't know if you, through your atheist phase, Paul, when someone Christian comes in and says, well, you do have faith, it's just not in God, you have faith in a type of past that you believe happened that you didn't watch happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit, I used to do the whole faith argument, you know what I mean? And, but, you know, I get what you're saying. I think it's two different types of faith. When you have faith that the sun is going to come up tomorrow because you understand how the solar system works, versus faith in a religion, right? Like the one is more demonstrable, I think, not directly. I can't go to space and show you that's the way it is. But I think, would you agree that's the way it is? You know, the sun goes around the earth, not vice versa.
Yeah, well, the thing is, from that view, it's still, from our perspective, could be either way because of relativism. The reality, though, is that believing the sun will come up tomorrow is actually not an inductive conclusion, but it's based on the past, right? So you can't actually make judgments about tomorrow. So you have a limitation of induction. So it's like, oh, the sun came up yesterday and it came up this morning. Therefore it will come up tomorrow is you're agreeing that that's like a leap of faith. It's an assumption.
Yeah. Right. What I'm saying is, if you put a gun to my head and you said, if you're wrong, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, it's okay.
I hope they can't hear what I'm saying. Yeah, I'll try and clean up my language.
No, that's wrong.
Okay. But what I'm saying is like, if somebody's got a gun to my head and says, if you're wrong about this, you know, you're dead. Is the sun going to come up tomorrow? I'm going to say, yeah. You know, I think I'm going to be pretty close to correct about that, but it is a leap. I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah, you can't know it. Yeah.
The sun could blow up. I could die and never know.
Yeah, or your recollection of the past, you're putting confidence in your evaluation of like memories, for instance, like that your childhood and the things that happen, you think that happened, but you could be wrong about that. Well, so you're jumping a little bit to like, well, I'm gonna hope I'm close enough to recall I was at Starbucks last week, or else I'm gonna be worried about my brain. But that's another thing
this could get you into a trap. But I get what you're saying. But like, well, you know, I would say I've lived. I don't know what it breaks down to. I'm 45 years old at this point. I would say, you know, at 45, I've lived X amount of days, and every day the sun has come up. So I feel pretty confident saying it's gonna come up tomorrow just from that standpoint. But I get what you're saying. Well, it's an assumption. Yeah, it's an assumption, and it's an assumption. And memory, by the way, I will second voice you on that. Memory is very unreliable in law and in science. Mm-hmm. You know, psychology, which is, you know, one area of science, and has told us just how unreliable memory can be.
Right. And so I guess what I'm pointing to is like, if from this view, you asked for a dogmatic view, I gave you, well, rights. Not everybody. Some atheists are consistent. They say rights don't exist. It's just force. And I go, yeah, that's correct. But some go, no, human rights. Christianity is bad because it violates rights. And I go, that's a belief. You don't, from a secular view, you can't really justify rights. You can't do it.
No, well, I said earlier, I do believe in immutable human rights. I believe that because I think that the logical end to any conversation that I would have, if I tried to pick at that or be relativist about it, would be us rolling around in the muck, throwing feces at each other, and nothing's real, and it doesn't matter what we do anyway because it's all going to blow up and blah, 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 nihilism, right? Mm-hmm. I've had my dance with that. I think a lot of atheists do have their dance with the nihilistic perspective, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not saying I'm not, at my core, still a nihilist. I don't believe in direct and obvious meaning that one man or any group of men can point to and go like, here's the truth. But I don't project nihilism out into the world in the same way I used to.
I understand. I do get that from you. But if the view is secularism, I guess what comes right before human rights, or any sort of assumption we should acknowledge them, is something called human value and dignity that you don't actually assume to everything equally. For instance, a crab, some people try to assume the same value of a human to a crab. Now, from your view, Paul, defending a secularist view right now, how does a secularist, given that ordering a society and what's best for society is actually a claim about what we should do for humans in particular, we're not including parrots necessarily in society. Now, what is it? How can a secularist, at least from your view, how do you justify the assumption that humans themselves, which are just a particular clade of biological clumped cells from the evolutionary view, how is it they have this peculiar value and other things don't, even if they have similar, like a dog, like you're like, well, it has some value, but I'm not going to choose it necessarily over the person, most people that you know. But the thing is that's what I'm saying.
It does seem to be contradictory, doesn't it?
The view that something
Yeah.
the humans are particularly have some sort of value, right?
Intrinsic value over a crab or a
Yeah.
molecule or, you know, a mote of dust or anything, right? And this is where, you know, I might, and I'm trying to give a good debate, but I also refuse to say shit that I don't believe. Like, I'm not a good sounding board for that. So you're talking to one secularist here. But I'm also a Taoist. And I believe that if we're going to get down to spiritualism, which is, you know, it's an angle you're coming from, so let me dip. I believe personally that a mote of dust and a human being are equally valuable in that they're all the same thing. You know, a mote of dust and a human being, according to a Taoist perspective, are part of the 5,000 things, which are earthbound, visible, interactable things.
Okay, so monism, it's all one big giant sort of thing itself.
Well, there are 3 layers of Tao. I don't want to get too into it. I'm not a big evangelist, but there is the 5,000 things, that's humanity and everything else, right? And then there's the earth as one whole entity, right, from that perspective. And then there's the universe, and then there's the Tao, right? So that would be your pecking order from top to bottom, right?
Now, just for the sake of an effect, can we swap dust with feces? And are you going to be consistent and say there's no difference between human beings and feces?
I'd rather have a mote of dust than a pile of feces. I mean,
well, they're equal.
We're going to preference, yeah. But ultimately, if you were to take a microscope and look at feces in a micro perspective, and then look at a piece of, you know, just take a swab off a human, you know what I mean? We're all pretty dirty. We're all pretty gross. Human beings all stink, and we all got poo-poo, pee-pee stuff, you know what I mean? So it's like, so that, you know, I feel like from that perspective, it's the same. But I value I personally value a human more than a piece of shit. I also personally value a human more than a crab. I love to eat crabs, and I would never eat a human.
But
we're talking about intrinsic meaning, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's where it gets sticky for me.
I understand, but even if you held a spiritual view in one hand, the moment you say humans are no different than everything else that's composed of similar things, and dust is all connected and it's all one big structure, the moment you say that, then you're actually arguing from a strict, like, physicalist position, that you're actually reducing all things to just material. Now, I'll ask you, because the debate and the conversation is mostly about whether or not your view, holding a secular view, that all humans and everything else are all one thing, what would be better for society? A Christian view that rejected that, even if it was true that we were no different than poop and dust and anything else. Even if it was true, would it be better for a society to hold a view that wasn't true, that humans have value, and would a Christian view ordering society be better than the view that entails we're all no different than feces?
You know, I hate this to be for our first big sticking point, but I would go, and this is going to be biased, and I'll admit, outwardly, my Taoist worldview impinges upon this argument in the same way that your Christian worldview is impinging on yours, okay? I think that your description of we're all dust, we're all the same thing as shit, we all came from the same thing, I think there's beauty and wonder in that, right? I would never use shit as an example if I was teaching a kid, but when you get up high enough in the studies, you know, you got to tell somebody that there's turd on you pretty much all the time, you know, unless you're a real hygienic person. I'm not trying to be gross, but I'm just making a point, right? And so from that perspective, I have to say that I think that there is beauty and wonder in the universe as it is described by science. And if that changes in the future, it will be hopefully one step closer to truth, but I don't believe in truth. I don't believe in ultimate truth from a nihilistic perspective. That's where my nihilism
really?
peaks.
Oh, right. You don't. So you believe there's no truth?
I believe that truth is what it needs to be for humans to justify what they do.
Okay, so if truth is bendable and you don't believe it really exists, then even your description of it isn't necessarily true. That could be wrong. So let's move.
Right. Sure.
Okay, so let's move to something like the laws of logic, the law of identity, excluded middle, and non-contradiction. Are those bendable?
Well, personally, yeah. I would never come to your house and beat you with a stick and tell you have to abide by the rules of logic, right? And I would never go into a Christian church and force them to logic away the talking donkey, snake, all the things that are in it, right? I would have brought you the talking donkey 20 years ago, but you caught me too old, and you know what I mean? It's just not, I don't care.
Well, actually, the talking donkey, at this point, you'd have to accept that that's possible, being that you don't have a strict standard for what truth is. And truth would tell you what is possible and impossible. But you're saying you don't hold a view that truth is absolute. So are you saying truth is not absolute?
Well, possibility and probability are two things. Would you say that?
Possibility and probability are related, but the fact that
they're two different things, though.
I know, but that presupposes truth. Stochastics and statistics.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
So
you're holding me to the no fundamental truth, right?
Yeah,
I believe we're pursuing that through science. I don't believe that we're pursuing it through Christianity.
All right, but is that true that we're pursuing it through science?
If there is a fundamental core truth, I believe it will be a scientist that probably finds it. Now, he may be a Christian guy, too. He may be a Buddhist guy. I'm not saying he will be an irreligious scientist.
Okay. Do you agree that you said everything, we're all matter, we're all similar matter. When you say the truth exists, can you tell me in which type of way it exists? Do you think it's conceptual?
To be fair, I said if truth exists. I believe it will be found if it can be by a man of science. And he may be also a man of religion. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive. They are here in the debate because we're opposing science, right? So
scientists, what they do when they find things, they're actually looking at the natural world, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So when you say...
a scientist would say, what else is there to look at? Just demonstrate it to me.
I understand, but there are things, if you're familiar with any philosophy of science precedes the scientific endeavor, and it assumes things that aren't actually produced by the scientific method, like meaning, knowledge, language, math, mind, logic, universals, particulars, categories. These things are all assumed beforehand. You have these notions that are conceptual. And so the scientific endeavor, I would push back, Paul, is if you said if truth can be found, it's going to be found by science. I'm going to push back, Paul, and say you can't do science without first starting with things that are actually non-scientific.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, we got to science. And this is one of those things that, like, I hate it when atheists go like, science is no. I mean, like, that we wouldn't have science if it wasn't for the church, if it wasn't for the Muslims before the church, right? It all kind of started in earnest. Now, we can't really ascribe it to any particular religion if you go back to the pre-pottery Neolithic or like, Ur and Sumer and the Mesopotamian cities that kind of constitute what we know to be the first civilizations, at least from a scientific perspective. I don't know if that's a biblical belief that you would share. Like, where are you at on that? Like, as far as ancient history?
I think there's ancient history. I don't hold that it goes back to some of these claims of, like, I ask an ordinary atheist, I call them scientismos. I go, how old's the Earth or something? They'll go, well, it's like 4.8 billion. Now, I don't take you as a person, though you may have gone through this phase, Paul. I don't take you as a person who goes, no, I know it's 4.8 billion, because you have the wherewithal to go, well, I mean, let's ask a couple of questions here. What's the I don't know, what's the margin of error on that? How do you falsify that?
Well, there was a big hullabaloo recently where the age of the universe was extended You know, the scientists, I think, as a whole, have been using one number, one range of numbers for a long time, and then it was found that, oh my goodness, it might be older than we thought, and the Big Bang might be further back in time than we've previously. I accept that if it's the strong current theory. I'm not sure it did replace the strong current theory, but if it is, I would be more apt to accept that than you telling me that the genealogy in Genesis and the early books of the Bible are proof that the world is 6,000 years old.
Right. But because you said you don't actually hold that there's actual truth, and you said that if that's the case, it could be the case that everything you thought about age and assumptions that we all learned from a childhood and all the assumptions baked in, those could actually be false, even from your view, like completely. Can I give you a little parable that you as a, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. If you were finishing a thought, I'm bad at that. So just smack me around if I did. Okay. No, it's fine. I was just saying, just finishing is that, that if you hold the view that there's no absolute truth and it's bendable and we're always kind of figuring it out, there's been many times where what we call science is very wrong and they do a 180, right? Because they're in the descriptive and the explanatory. And today, unfortunately, this isn't a debate on science, but if you watch some of my debates on science, Paul, you would see that a lot of modeling and doing mathematic equations is posed as a scientific theory when it's actually not going through any rigor inside science. But that's a different, I don't want to tail off on that. Go ahead.
I agree. I totally, well, by the way, I agree. Maximum rigor. I know what a peer-reviewed paper means. A lot of people don't. That's the rigors that I expect if you're going to claim current model truth or whatever. And a lot of things that people will spout off aren't, they're theoretical models that describe something that science doesn't fully understand yet. But a lot of people will proffer that as like, oh yeah, string theory is the truth, bro, wormholes, man. And like none of that has been demonstrated or proven yet. So let's be real.
Well, even a singularity, which is borrowed from math, is being reified as a physics phenomenon, and that's a category error as well.
I hope for the singularity, but I can't tell you with any kind of certainty from my stoner.
Well, Paul, you already believe we're in the singularity. If you hold a monistic view, everything is basically one thing. Operating.
I was thinking of the the technological singularity that people talk about coming with AI and everything. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, the singularity, all is one and one is all. Yeah.
I used to be a very rabid futurist, all about Kurzweil and all these people, and I was so let down by all their promises.
Well, I just think that like things are dragging behind the curve. Maybe we're going through a rough patch right now, and then Star Trek.
Maybe, yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I think we're going down. I think we're heading for the crater. I don't know how you. Never mind. We're getting off the fucking path because I like you too much. No. I wanted to say from my perspective, and this is something that helped me because you seem to be kind of struggling with this meaning and truth, right? And when if I and I do believe that there is no inherent truth. Or at least not one that the human mind is ever going to comprehend, right? And if that is true, then it means, then where does that leave me, right?
That leaves you in a contradiction because
okay. Well, yeah, because I've just said, well, there's no truth. And it's the chicken and egg thing. But not chicken and egg, but it's the same reverse. It's a paradox, right?
Yeah.
But human beings are a paradox. Bro, if you find one human being that is a robotic logician, please point him out to me because I got questions, bro.
Lex Friedman.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Very close. Okay. No, but you get what I'm saying, right? And I'm not trying to be pedantic with that.
I like pedantic. I like being strict on the meaning of words, though. And so, when someone says there's no truth, I go, is that true? And they realize quite quickly that maybe they shouldn't say that.
Well, this sentence is true. That's one of those paradoxes.
The liar paradox, yeah.
Right, the liar's paradox. Exactly. Thank you for knowing a little more about. I got dogged by the streamer Destiny.
Yeah.
He started checking me on philosophy, and I got like hubris in me, and I was like, I've read every philosophical thing, and he was like, tell me about Kant's categorical imperative. I went,
You're like,
"Oing,
no.
oing, oing, oing,"
You said,
you know?
no, I don't have to do that. I don't have to
I
do
don't
what
have
you
to.
say.
You're not gonna
Yeah.
quiz me. No, I just admitted that I'm a dumbass because that's the type of person I am. You know, I'm
Yeah.
not looking to win anything.
Yeah.
I'm looking to, have fun and learn maybe.
Yeah.
That's why I like this. That's why I agreed to this. Now, I thought maybe we'd be hot headed. Maybe it'll get hot headed, but so far I don't. I don't think your prescriptions are all correct, but that doesn't mean that I would want to be at your throat or nothing. I think you're a good guy. You seem like a decent person.
Yeah, I'm a good guy. I'm usually I'm surprised someone didn't warn you, honestly, about me. I'm usually extremely aggressive and I don't let up. But there's something about the way you talk and hold yourself where I don't need to really do that. But
Sure.
but to bring it back to the topic, it seems like if I were to go, okay, let's sideline secularism for a second, just because the nature of the conversation allows it. Is like, if you take your Taoist view, if we take that to its conclusion,
Yeah.
Isn't a Christian application, like how to structure society based on a Christian view, isn't it more structured and exhaustive than you trying to structure a society based on your
Which Christian
your
view?
Well,
Not
I'm
to be
an-
pedantic.
That's fine. No, I'm an Orthodox Christian. So let's just say like something very basic, like we organize a society that has a social pressure toward families and marriage, and a social pressure toward attending church and being baptized. Not a requirement, no jail, none of that, but just a social pressure. Like,
Well, I would say that already exists, doesn't it?
well, I mean, I think it's we're reaching the minority of that. We're at a tipping point where that's seen as something secularists should fight against. But the problem is, that's what I've never got from a secularist is, why ought a secularist fight against a Christian praxis if a secularist could hold a Christian praxis without believing in any of the Christianity?
Sure. There's definitely crossover. We're starting to get into the golden rule territory, right? Maybe this will be contentious. We'll do unto others as you would have others do unto you. And then we're starting to get into some commandments too. Love thy enemy as thyself, honor thy mother and father. I don't know them all. I'm not a good Christian, but you get what I'm saying, right? We're starting to get into that field.
Yeah, and that would require. This is why I don't run with the golden rule, is because the golden rule has something smuggled into it, which is this idea of a person, other. So we just kind of assume it. That's why I asked you, Paul, under your materialistic view, even with a side of Taoism and some spirituality, what is it about a human being that's specifically?
I love that.
Aside of it, yeah.
That was good. Yeah, like a mac and cheese bowl.
Yeah.
Can I get a salad? Yeah. I'm watching my figure. No, it was good. I wanted to give you props. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah. So if you answered before and you said, well, you're right. When asked what's specific about a human being that warrants this notion of do unto others, if it doesn't include everything, including a tree and a pile of dust and a pile of poop, if it can't be transferred, would you agree that even between the two of us, if you held a Taoist view and I held a Christian view, do unto others would be more compatible with my worldview and less compatible with your view?
Right. There is interplay. I'm not going to lie to you. And this is something I learned studying Taoism. Well, I studied a lot of Eastern religion, not in depth. I'm not a scholar, but I read some of the foundational texts and listened to some of the modern philosophical interpretations of Eastern religion. So I was looking for something that was different because I've heard the Western stuff. I grew up in it, and my sister is very much it. And I was looking for, let me try this, right? And what I found when I dug a little bit into Taoism, and this is how I try and couch it to people. I think you might be old enough. I'm not trying to.
44.
Okay. So you and I 1 year apart. I'm 45. You remember Choose Your Own Adventure books?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay. So that's life, right? Life is a series of eventualities, and you have very limited choice in life. We're starting to get into determinism now. Determinism.
Ruh-roh. You don't believe that, do you?
Well,
oh no.
Are we going to go at each other now? Is this
Oh,
the
no.
point where it all comes apart?
No, I'm going to rescue you from determinism. You're going to thank me later in a weird email.
Well, maybe I will show up sneakily at DebateCon coming up here soon to
Yes.
ambush. No, I'm kidding. No, but do come to DebateCon. We love modern day debate here, both of us, I think. But yeah, no, not to get too far afield. I'm not trying to dodge. But yes, I do believe that human beings really don't have choice if you look at it from the universal scale. And
Okay.
how else can you look at it?
Okay, but the thing is, would you agree that your belief, your thought that human beings don't have choice would also be determined, and you couldn't know that if it were
Right.
true?
Hence comes my cop out. You ready for my cop out?
I-
You ready for
I-
my obfuscation?
I
dodge?
like cop-outs because it
Yeah.
means that you're not firmly placed in the sinking ship.
Sure, and I'm like I said, I would be a total liar if I didn't tell you that my whole this would have been a different conversation between me and you 2.5 years ago. You know, I'm not a Taoist going way back. This is a 2.5. I'm not, you know.
So your tattoos are new. You have
I
new
don't have
tattoos. Okay.
No, I haven't gotten my yin yangs yet.
Yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
getting them.
You didn't get your yeah, I got it. Okay.
yeah. But no, you know, so it's new to me, and I'm coming at it from a very humble place. I'm not a Taoist scholar. I read the Tao every morning while I sit on my porch. I contemplate it, as I'm called to do by the Tao, right? And so for me, I'm trying to dip back. My shield, my cop out is the choose your own adventure book, right?
Yeah, that's a contradiction of determinism.
It
though.
is.
It
is, but human beings are complex and contradictory organisms with a limited faculty for understanding, and we have to sometimes contradict in order for us to make meaning in our own lives in a choose your own adventure way, and that's the best we can do.
No, should we correct contradictions? Like if okay, here's a better question. Forget all of this.
Sure.
Let's just ask a question of if you thought determinism was true, would it be better to teach kids in a society that it wasn't true?
I don't really. I think I think that the journey is more important than the fucking end result. I'm sorry, I don't mean to curse. The journey is more important than the end result. Okay.
Do you want me to play? I'll buy a wooden flute, and you can say I feel like I should. Yeah. Well,
By
the thing
way,
is,
rest in peace, Hermeto Pascal, my favorite
Hermeto.
flautist
Oh,
friend.
yeah.
He passed away
Wild.
recently.
He was the water guy, right?
Musico
So crazy.
de Lagoa.
So crazy.
Look him
guy.
up. Look up Musica de Lagoa, and his jazz music is absolutely fire.
I actually was introduced to that guy during a live stream, and I think I spent an hour looking at his footage. And then I was happy, not to judge him or assume things, but I was happy that was the only footage I had of him, if that makes sense. I was like, okay, just stay in
I wonder what Hermeto would have to say about this argument we're having tonight.
He would just be uninterested.
He'd dip his flute into the water and he'd go.
Be just uninterested. Yep. He wouldn't care.
You're right.
The question was, in a society that has a choice between determinism, they're biological reactions. They have no choice in the matter. Things that we think they did wrong, stealing, killing, murdering, rape, that was all determined. Now, what's better for society, to teach people that that's the truth, or actually do a noble lie and say, no, that's not the truth. You have choice in the matter. You have responsibility, and you're going to be held accountable for your actions. What's better?
Well, by your framework there, the Christian framework, not the deterministic framework, is better, right? But I take issue with part of the framework, and I just want to ask you a question. I'm not trying to Q&A you to death, and this is not. I ask you this in good faith, as a stoner like me can possibly do. Okay, I promise. So let's make up a hypothetical guy. I hate doing this, by the way. Trust me, if you don't want to do hypotheticals, just tell me shut up, and I'll try another way.
It's fine.
Let's make a hypothetical guy. Okay. Let's say Jimmy. Jimmy grew up in the hood. The hood. You know what I'm talking, the 90s hood, right? And we can say Jimmy's what we don't have to even go racial because people are born in the hood of all colors, right? So let's just say Jimmy is.
Well, you could have been a more. You could have picked a more appropriate name, but I'll go with Jimmy.
Well, the hood is what we used to. Yeah, Jimmy. Jimmy is pretty okay. Yeah.
How about the Jimmy with apostrophe?
Okay, no, we're not going to go there.
Okay,
no,
you don't want to.
Okay.
You don't want to go there. Okay.
No, because I don't want this. This is not racial. This is just
understand
economic.
Okay.
This is me being a lefty now.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
So Jimmy has. He's born with a single mother. She's addicted to crack, right? You get it, right?
Wait, you're not going to go racial on this? I thought.
No, I'm just saying. Well, hey, man, I've met some white folks that have been smoking.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
I know. It's an edgy joke. I'm sorry. I'm just being extra tiptoe careful because
I know you get canceled. We don't.
Oh,
you get canceled
man,
now.
Dude,
Yeah,
I've been canceled 3 times.
I imagine. I saw some of your streams. And I was like, this guy doesn't play with those crazy people. He's like in those weird. He's in his weird own world. Map.
Yeah, I'm in my own world, and the people that find me, they bounce off or they stick. I don't know.
Okay, hypothetical. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. The hypothetical. So Jimmy, he's born. His mom's a crackhead, so he's born addicted to crack, but he makes it through, with minimal damage. And he's born into this horrible situation. Mom lives in a studio apartment, barely makes the rent, Section 8, all of that shit, right? He's around drugs, he's around abuse, he's around all that horrible shit, right? So Jimmy has a choice very early on in life, I think. Maybe around, I would say 8 or 9. Right? Now, it's not his first choice, but it's the first important choice. What am I going to go hang out with the other dudes that are in similar situations that are in my neighborhood? And am I going to learn what they're doing and do the same shit? Or the same toodly doot doot doot? Or am I going to go a different way? Now, do you believe that Jimmy, having no perspective and having nobody in his life, as we've just discussed, that's ever told him he can do that or shown him that way, do you believe he actually has a choice?
Yes, I think that the distinction here is that he has a choice, and what's beautiful about the Christian paradigm is that from the Christian paradigm, we're actually judged by our knowledge and lack thereof. And so I'm accommodating your view and also inserting that we're still calling Jimmy to correct himself. And so if we go Jimmy, actually you described James Brown's entire upbringing. Jimmy grows up and he doesn't know better, okay? But here's the distinction with Christianity. We have an obligation to correct. But secularism has no obligation to correct. And further, Taoism really has no obligation to correct because that would assume a distinction between things, which is illusory.
And it would assume an absolute morality and something that would prescribe something like an absolute morality. And that's where it falls apart for Taoism in terms of it's incompatible views. So you're absolutely right on that.
Yeah, and so if determinism said he's doing X, Y, Z, the contradiction is this. If determinism was true, then us coming in and saying, well, Jimmy, that's not your fault, we wouldn't even know if our statement was accurate because that we would be determined to say, Jimmy, that wasn't your fault, or Jimmy, that was your fault. What I'm saying is under determinism, Paul, truth itself is not possible because whatever you thought was true, you would have been mechanically, biologically, neurologically determined to think that like a domino.
Okay. Yeah, here's the thing. Jimmy, right? I don't think that and now maybe this is just me. Maybe it's just a reflection of what I would do in this hypothetical situation if somebody pointed at Jimmy and said, you're responsible for helping Jimmy see the right way. Right. And that's a tough thing. But maybe Jimmy is like our distant relative I didn't know I had as the crack mom. You know what I mean? And here he shows up one day in a basket.
Wait. Let's say you're the father, because this is what's also beautiful about Christianity is that we as fathers are lowercase extensions of the church, lowercase priests. We're not clergy, but we're fathers. And so that's reflective of some sort of patriarchy and a hierarchy, and our children actually need the correction. So the thing is, under Christianity, children isn't restricted to just kids who are not grown up yet. We see at a metaphysical level, we're all children, and a Christian paradigm goes out and corrects our own first, and then we meet people where they are. So we don't have the same rigor when we correct someone who never knew Christianity, never knew God, never knew participation. worship and all of these things.
Yeah.
We take an approach to them different than we do an approach our
course,
own. If
you
that
have
makes
to.
we're more rigorous with ourselves. But if you, Paul, were the dad, and I know you're not. You said you weren't a father, but try to
No.
imagine you had the kid, and instead of he's left with just you, and he starts doing things, and you have the notion. I would argue from a Christian view, it's actually written in your heart, even if you can be a little wrong. The notion of correcting him.
Mhm.
And do you correct him from a secular view, and why? Do you correct him from a Taoist view, and why? I think the latter relieves you of any obligation, certainly of correcting him, because he and you aren't different. They're all one big matter splatter. So, but from a secular view, which is the topic of the debate, I'm not sure a secularist could actually present a case for why they ought to guide and correct their kid in any particular way, because ultimately the kid, as soon as he can do things, should be able to choose his own adventure.
Yeah. You don't have to answer this because I know it's personal. Do you have children?
3.
3. That's wonderful. Like
Isn't
I am an uncle 12x time.
Nice.
I'm a 12x uncle.
Nice.
I had 5 sisters. I'm the only boy in the family, and they went forth and multiplied. Okay, they took care of it. And one of the things that I want to make clear here, I'm not trying to back off, but I want to make it very, very clear.
You might have a kid somewhere.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
Man, no.
I thought you were.
No. I'm infertile. So I was married previously. I'm a divorcee, and I'm remarried now. But in my previous marriage, I tried to have children. We couldn't for a couple of years. I went and got tested. She went and got tested. She was fine. I was not. And so I just can't. Now I could do in vitro or whatever, but that's just not an option. And I've reached a point in my life. I'm 45. It's a little late to have a kid, you know what I mean? But I want to just say, and I claim ignorance here, because I look at my sister and it's a wonder that she's even alive, right? The one that has 7 children, all under one roof.
Yeah.
I look at her and it's a wonder that she's even alive. So for me to speak about the parental experience or how I would be with a kid is asking me to delve into theory crafting that would leave me with
Let's
my
make it
pants
easier.
down.
Fair enough. Let's make it easier. You are an uncle.
Yeah.
As a man in particular, and an uncle to so many, do you have any obligations to your kids? To your nephews and nieces?
Oh, absolutely. If one of them called me right now, I'd be like, sorry guys, got to dip out of the debate. I'm needed. You know what I mean?
Is it secularism that would give you a grounding for that obligation, or more so Christianity? I know.
It's a tough fucking question. It's a tough doodly-dood question. I'm sorry. I'm really bad, man. I am a sailor with my mouth. My mom was just here too, and I was way better when she was here. I need to start thinking mom's still upstairs. Okay. Let me think.
Because you know why I say this, and if you're having a tough time answering, I say this because you admitted that there's a large portion of your family that does operate under from your view, a Christian paradigm. And so it's almost like your obligations are inextricably tied to how they live their life.
To a certain extent, yeah, because I'm the black sheep atheist in my family, right? Or the Taoist. You know, I'm the only one that isn't at least nominally Christian. And a lot of my families are what I would call evangelical fundamental Christians, and not that as a pejorative, right? That's just probably what I would say. They're very church oriented, very Bible oriented. They teach.
They don't swear, do they, as much as you, right?
They will not swear at all. I haven't heard my sister swear since she got saved, bro.
Yeah, but the thing is, your hesitancy to swear is accommodating, and you also know that there's some kind of value to it, right? To not do it.
Well, to me, and here's the value I see in it. Had you come at me in a different way,
fuck you,
buddy. If you had you come at me in a different way, I would have been less accommodating of that, and I would have been way more free with the fucks and the shits. But because I know you're a religious guy, I would rather not, because I do give that grace to everybody, because I don't want to push you away with a word. If you're going to be pushed
doesn't
away
work.
from me,
I cuss.
I want you to be pushed away because of what I am.
I don't have a cuss judgment. But what I'm pointing to is that you're actually accommodating something that's wholesome.
Yeah, I would agree.
And
Well,
so if Christianity produces a wholesome society, even at the family level or the community level, would you, even as a secularist, wouldn't you prefer to be around wholesome people than non-wholesome?
I mean, now we're getting into personal preference and stuff, and I don't know what that. I mean, listen, I don't have children, so I do want to provide a good example for my nieces and nephews, but I also
Why?
don't. Well,
Why?
because I would hope that those little brilliant kids would grow up to be doctors, philosophers, skydivers, mountain climbers, whatever their little hearts desire. That's why.
Okay, but secularism has no reason to not cuss, right? You couldn't pull that on a secularist.
No, it was hard. It was like pulling teeth to get me to do it because my sister got saved at like 18 or 19, and I was a brash 21-year-old and just starting to get in that YouTube atheist thing.
Oh yeah,
you know, not yet.
Sam Harris.
Not yet at 21, but I was looking at the Sam Harris. I was dipping into the Richard Dawkins. I was dipping into the Christopher Hitchens. You know what I mean? Sipping the hitch. Oh yeah. And they were all very aggressive. You are an idiot, sir, and you're a moron, and children should be ashamed to be. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh shit, yeah. And so I got on YouTube and I found a Christian guy that was like, atheists are going to hell. And I was like, fuck you, buddy. You know, and I had fights, and it got me a lot of subscribers, and a lot of people that hang around me are still that way. And I'm not above doing it. I won't lie to you and tell you I'm above doing it, but it's not fruitful.
Well, I mean, why be fruitful? That's another Christian paradigm.
Why
isn't
multiply, right? Yeah.
Right.
You know, I'm still stuttering. I'm not trying to evade the answer to your question, by the way. I'm stuttering on something, and I'm gonna do something that probably a lot of. Well, one of the videos I was watching, not to get too far afield, you were talking about how nobody ever debates you on the secular side. You and I's content has never clashed, so I've never called you out and then ran. But you know what I mean? I know are you used to that from a person from my perspective being like, oh, I'm going to talk shit about you. I'm going to make a video exposing you, but I won't talk to you in person.
Yeah. Well, I'm used to that from the secular side. I actually want to talk to these people. I made a whole series a year or so ago of like arguments against atheism, the very particular things. If you weren't an atheist who held these arguments, it wasn't for you. But I was just clickbaity titles. And these people made these like response videos, and I simply was like, let's actually hash it out, either a debate or a convo, and they never did it. So yes, I'm used to that, but I'm also a dick. I'm aggressive.
Me too. Yeah, me too.
Hey, look at James. Look at James. I'm a dick.
I'm a dick too.
I could be aggressive, and I could also not be aggressive. So
I think James knows that. You know, he's smarter. He got two dicks in the room. Because he
always has two. He's very comfortable with two dicks in the room.
Well, maybe I don't know. Okay, well, we'll talk about that. You know,
this
on
debate
a different
isn't
debate.
about me. Okay,
let's turn it on him. Let's turn it on him.
We're trying to drag in the moderator. No, the reason I'm struggling with the answer to that question, Jimbob, is because I cannot deny I was raised in a Christian household. My mother is a Christian. Mm-hmm. My father is a Christian. Now we were not like taking to church every Sunday, and my mom didn't what I call Bible beat me, right? She didn't like, you're going to believe this, but she did present the world at a very formative time in my life from a very Christian perspective. And she had words that were called blackjack words. I don't know where that came from, but it was like the F word, the C word, the real bad ones that you don't do, right? And that I rebelled against that, as all teenagers do, because as soon as you can say poo-poo, pee-pee words, it's like you do it all the time. And I will not lie to you. If you looked at my content, I say a lot of it because I'm not in. There's no kid up. There's no kid upstairs.
Yeah, you had a giant F-bomb on your Trapper Keeper.
No, nothing like. I don't have a big "fuck you" shirt or nothing like that, right?
Yeah.
And I do that because of how my mom raised me, and I can't get past that. And my mom did that because she's a Christian woman, And when she was raised by a Christian woman,
Mm-hmm.
if she would have said one of those words in public, private, or otherwise, now I'm not saying this is right. She would have been beat for that.
Yeah.
Right.
Based.
And I don't, well, that's another one too, that I'm very hesitant to debate because I'm of two minds on it. And I don't, because
well, you can't,
I was beaten in a way that I believe is abusive, but I also was beaten for good reasons sometimes, you know what I mean? And so I'm like, where do you draw the line? What's a spank and what's a beating? And what's
I got hit
correction?
with a wooden dowel. I just learned how to put on multiple layers of underwear and act like I was crying.
I had to pull my pants down and I got the belt.
Oh, they knew better. They knew the underwear trick.
The underwear trick was not going to work.
Unbelievable.
It was bear skin and leather belt. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So,
anyway.
but the thing is that this is relevant because when you look at the grand scale of society, it's made of families, correct?
When you say the grand, I'm not trying to be evasive. When you say the grand scale of society, where are we talking historically?
What is society made of if it's not families? What would it alternative be? It's just a bunch of like.
I mean, family. When you're talking about family, you're talking about the nuclear family. Mom and dad are in the home. Little Sally,
it could be
Jimmy.
grandma. It could be generational. Like the fact that families require.
Would you say two loving parents?
No.
So two loving guardians.
No.
What one loving?
You know why, Paul?
Person
and this gets into interesting territory because secularism, to get back to the topic, is that secularism has no reason why 5 homosexual men can't buy a child and raise it, right?
But and this is spicy because if those 5 homosexual men love that child and that child's sitting in a Catholic orphanage right now, I think he'd be in better stewardship. Personally, to have 5 dads or whatever they called themselves in that weird hypothetical arrangement, right? That I'm sure has probably happened at some point.
And how would you determine they were better off with the 5 homosexual dads in a house than the Catholic orphanage?
I would imagine, and I don't have any prep for this, so I just might be pulling this out of my rear, but
no pun intended.
Yeah. But I would imagine that you could do a study, right, of kids that were raised in homosexual households by 2 moms, 2 dads or more, right? Non-traditional nuclear family households, right?
Yeah.
And you would see how they turn out versus the average, right? That would be that's what I understand from a scientific standpoint, being a non-expert on statistics.
Hold on, let me just grant you a hypothetical where, from your review, the stats aligned with better.
I am so sorry to fucking do this to you, but I'm going to do it now. Can we put a pin in that real quick? And maybe Modern Day Debate can give us a quick ad or something. I have to pee, and it'll take me like 3 minutes. I don't want to stop, but I just put a pin in that. Okay, give me a sec.
No problem. Thank you for the opportunity, folks. You don't want to miss it. I just pinned it at the top of the chat. Come see Jimbob, Andrew Wilson, Jake of Rattlesnake TV, who may be having a cameo in this stream. It's possible. You don't want to miss them at DebateCon 6 this November 15th and 16th in Nashville, Tennessee. You can see Jimbob debate. You can, more importantly, meet Jimbob. I got to tell you, folks, Andrew Wilson, generous guy. He is throwing the biggest party on Saturday night during the conference. It's an opportunity to meet the speakers, in addition to many other opportunities to meet the speakers at the conference. Folks, I just pinned the discount code at the top of the live chat. Get your tickets, as that code is viable during this stream. So use that for 10% off your tickets. The DebateCon 6 link is also in that pinned chat and also in the description box. You don't want to miss it. Grab your tickets now. Ready for you, Paul.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna toss it to Jimbob because he was in the middle of a thought when my bladder gave out.
Yeah. So like, if I just granted you the data and you were like, well, it seems to be better than being whatever criteria you used. It's better to be in the
raised
house
by
with
the
5.
state.
Right. But the thing is,
orphanage.
like then it goes to other situations. And the question becomes, do people of the same sex who are in what they're calling a relationship, do they have any right to a female? Like, let's say it's two dudes. Do they have any right to a kid?
I don't think anybody has a right to a kid, but my view on parenthood and children and stuff is kind of crazy. Like, well, I don't think it's crazy, but a lot of people tell me I'm crazy.
You mean you'll allow a lot? Like, let's say there's two brothers in a quote romantic relationship. Can they adopt?
Well, that's illegal. Yeah, I wouldn't.
What if it was legal? From a secular view, they legalized it because they were like,
Can I leave the country then? I don't want to be in the country.
Paul, I just want to point out because of the topic, and I know you don't hold what we would maybe call a general orthodox secular view. You kind of like waver here and there on it, and that's good. That's a good sign. The thing is, two dudes.
Well, are you saying that's a good sign because you hope I waver my way over to Orthodox Christianity?
Yes,
or something?
I hope. I actually know that you're open enough to things that you will probably attend if we keep in touch. You'll probably experience.
Oh, I'll think about this conversation, but I think about all my conversation. But you've been a good faith guy, and you've planted. What do you guys say? Planted some seeds.
Yeah, I think you'll actually enjoy it, not even from the perspective of, oh, Jimbob's trying to convert me, but just like experiencing, in contrast, by the way, to your family, what, say, Christianity would be in praxis in the year of like 500, which is like, there's nothing else that you were and I grew up in a similar environment as you, like sort of like pseudo-Pentecostal
lapse
crazy,
Protestant.
Crazy things happening in the inside the building. And then, anyway, that's different. But the thing is, from a secular view, because of the harm principle that ultimately secularists use to discover or deploy their moral system, there's actually no harm from their view of two dudes who are brothers in a relationship further adopting a child. They couldn't actually tell you that it was some sort of perversion of something positive.
Well, because they would have you're saying they would have no basis to say it was wrong because do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, right?
You already know, dude. You already know.
I know. I don't believe that. But I also don't. And this, I'm not trying to cop out. I was real honest with James when he reached out to me to do this. I'm not a real dogmatic atheist anymore. Like when I dogmatic, when I say that, I mean, I'm not going to jump down your throat no matter what your religion is, as long as it's not like my religion is outwardly hurting grannies and children. You know what I mean? Like I go and I hurt grannies and children for a living because I'm that, I'd have a problem with that. But you could be whatever, Christian, Muslim, whatever. I don't judge you. I judge individuals. I go to Carlin on that. I hate people in groups. I love individuals as I meet them. And you're a cool individual. But setting that aside, when it comes to children, right, my views on children are that it's a little, just bear with me. I think you should have to pass a few tests and shit to have a kid. I think there should be classes. I think there should be like psychological evaluations. I think somebody should.
I already have an answer. We call that a catechism.
Okay. All right. Sure. I get you. No, I get you. No, but like, look, I'm open-minded, as you said. I'm just not convinced that Christianity is the one that we ought adopt because I'm not, my upbringing, even though my mom didn't let me cuss, there was a lot of hypocrisy in my upbringing. She cussed at that time. She doesn't anymore, but she's 70 something. She's almost 70. She cussed like a sailor in front of me. And so did all her blue collar friends that would come and drink in front of me. Right. And so it's like.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. Without Christianity, you don't have a position of why being a hypocrite is wrong. I mean, you could be a hypocrite and secular, and there's no inconsistency. It's only an inconsistency. It's only an inconsistency. Sorry, let me just.
That's okay. Sorry.
It's only an inconsistency if you affirm Christianity, and so you pointing out her hypocrisy is actually a Christian act of love. Isn't that interesting?
Well, that is the mode by which I came to know hypocrisy, through an undeniable Christian mode. I also believe that if my mother had been a secularist, she could have pointed out hypocrisy in the world to me in a very demonstrable way, or been a hypocrite and then explained it to me. I could see if that being foreseeable and possible in a child's relationships. I don't know that Christianity is the linchpin of that.
Well, to say it's wrong to be a hypocrite would require an ought ethical position, right?
Well, I mean, it's because
Right.
you're an authoritarian, you're an ultimate authoritarian over your children if they're still living in your home.
Yeah.
Like, they're not out there in the world. They don't get, those human rights that I believe everybody have. They have human rights to not be killed, but under your roof, their rights are limited.
I
They
know,
don't
but
got privacy. They don't.
I know, but yeah, but look. There's two houses, right? None of them are Christian. One is teaching that hypocrisy is good and they should do it, and one's teaching that it's not good to do. You're going to lean toward the latter, right?
Well, yeah, obviously, but I don't.
Why?
I don't think the hypothetical Well, because hypocrisy is a bad character.
That's a Christian tenet, though.
Other people won't like you if you're a fucking hypocrite.
You're more Christian than I was going to say than you think, but I think you already know it.
Well, I do know it because I'm surrounded by it, man. Like I said, I'm the black sheep in my family.
Well, you got yoked early. What yoked is you got yoked. You got yoked early. I got yoked early. We didn't have sorry.
I tell Christians when I talk to them all the time, like, they'll be like, well, if you got saved, I'm like, I've already been saved. Now that a lot of them say, well, it didn't stick, but I did the whole altar call when I was 12 or 13. I did my thing,
We may want to, forgive me if you wanted to wrap up that thought. I didn't mean to jump in.
No problem. Go ahead.
We may want to jump into the Q&A. We do have questions for you guys. Folks, to keep this a substantive conversation, one is you're going to have a cameo by a certain someone at the end of this debate, which is 27 minutes from now. That's why I'm jumping into the Q&A, because this is an amazing discussion.
Cool.
I'm going to stick with the sincere super chats or standard questions that are submitted through the chat, as we are looking for sincere questions, folks, not insults. This one first coming in from...
Who are they insulting? Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute. Who are they insulting, James?
Sometimes
probably me.
Oh,
some of them
God.
can be
Is it mostly him or is it mostly me?
They said, this one from... I haven't kept track. Kevin Blackwell asks, though, Paul, can you give us an exact definition of what a human is and is not? Societies haven't agreed on this throughout history. We need a definition.
No, I can't. I'm sorry. I wish I could give you more, but that is the honest answer. No, I do think that society, there are people that would be more equipped to give you that definition. I can tell you what I think a human being is. Right. But it gets all philosophical and psychological from there. It's like, what if a human being is, when I look at it, it looks like me and it sounds like me and it walks and it talks like me. Now, it could be a skinwalker. It could be a robot. But that's what a human is for me. It's a collection of nerve endings, thoughts, psychology, and meat, walking around.
I don't believe you believe that. I'm calling you out. You don't have enough people around you, dude, to call you out on this shit.
Well, I do, though. I just got done telling you I'm surrounded on all sides by Christians.
No, dude, you don't believe that you're merely a skin sack made of just nerve endings identical to feces. As much as you want to LARP as a Taoist or whatever you do in the morning, fine. I'm not going to take away your morning tea ritual. I'm saying you don't embody that in your communication. You embody that you respect human beings, that you distinguish human beings from other things that are not human beings. Therefore, you don't hold that they're just merely a collection of unrelated matter clumped together doing things with utterances.
You're leaving one thing out, and it's very key. Psychology. That's the key for me. I said humans are meat, nerve endings, brain, fingers, and psychology and face to me. That's a human being to me, but I know it's an incomplete and negative definition to a lot of people. But
well, the problem with that is psychology would be another expression of pure material mechanics.
Okay. Well,
So-
I mean, I guess I don't like labels, but you've labeled me a materialist, and I guess I won't argue
No,
against it. I don't think-
no, Paul. Paul, I'm actually telling you, you yourself as a
Yeah.
person, how
Yeah.
you talk, how you operate in the world is inconsistent with materialism. You think you're a materialist. You're actually
Yeah.
not. You're not a materialist. You're just
Well,
pretending you are.
I
It doesn't
I'm-
make sense.
Maybe I'm a spicy materialist. You know what I mean?
No, you're like a lazy materialist. Like you're like, well, I'll just put on this. It's like you're trying on materialism and you know it doesn't fit, but you have to wear something to go in public. And so you're like, well, let me just wear this to the 7-Eleven. I'll just get a burrito and go home. It's like you don't actually live. You don't go. You don't go back
I would
to your
never
family.
eat a 7-Eleven burrito, sir. Do not besmirch me, okay? Never. I
would
have,
never-
but I never again will.
You would never go to your house, to your family, to your nieces and nephews and espouse if that material. You don't actually participate or experience, like, for instance, your experience with your family and your loved ones, as much as you disagree with them, you don't experience pure material. That's already a contradiction. You don't experience
True, that's
pure
love.
materialism.
That's regardless of material. That's regardless of what they do. I love them unconditionally. You're right.
Okay, so if you don't experience pure materialism, but you're drawing from your own experience that materialism is true, how do you reconcile the two things?
Can I say something? Everything is psychology. This is a statement. I know people hate it.
It's such a cop out. But go ahead.
I know, but that's
Everything is psychology. That's
But
why
we-
I haven't. It's like, dude,
It's
put on a
true.
tweed suit.
I wanna give
Put on a
Paul-
tweed suit and start
We
crying.
got to go to the next one, but
Jordan
Paul, I want to give you a
Peterson.
chance to wrap up that thought.
Okay. That's you know what? I want to get as many of these super chats in as we can. I'm fine with wrapping it up there. I just think we disagree. I copped out. You know, everything is psychology. That's it.
This one from over in Square. It says, made by Jimbob. Please describe the central dogma in molecular biology. Did this come up?
The central dogma. The central dogma, and there's two dogmas that would be paired with molecular biology, which would be Quine's two dogmas of empiricism. Go look it up. Go look up those two.
Well, I'll have to go look them up too because man, this guy's he knows what Kant's categorical imperative is. I bet he does.
Yeah, I do, but I don't use that view. But I didn't always. I'm just as much of a low tier novice in philosophy as you, Paul. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Well, I'm an expert in my own wacky contradictory philosophy, but nothing that's been written.
Well,
you know.
the difference, Paul, is that we would be likable at a bar and those people wouldn't.
True.
This one from
Very true.
one over in Square. It says, Jimbob, do you believe women have the right to vote?
No one has the right to vote, including men.
Wow. Vigo, the Tardpathian, says, thanks for the great discussion. Would Paul be interested in reading, quote, Christ the Eternal Tao by Hirmonk Damascene, if he hasn't already?
Oh, I heard of that.
But I am taking I'm taking it down in my notes. I will look into it. Thank you.
You got it. And let's see, Even Lord, I will...
Even Lord. Even Lord.
I'll read a paraphrased version. They said this is a great discussion. And let me just double check for any last ones. I thought we had... we do it. Yeah, there are more here. Is Coast to Coast Ghost said earlier, Jim mentioned homogeneity in society. Could you elaborate what you meant by that? I know the definition. I want to know what you mean.
I mean that there's a body of people that make up a collective view on what it is to be human, what it is to operate in the world. Why are we here? What are we here for? Where are we going? Whatever that is, even if it wasn't Christianity, would be pragmatically more workable than pluralism, which secularism produces. You know, if you go to Japan, the unified way of living with the heritage and the identity is still more pragmatic than secularism, even though they're not Christian. That's what I mean, that it's a workable node, which is interesting because Paul holds a view that everyone, this monist take that everything's one thing.
Yes.
Well, I mean, if everything's one thing, but inside of one thing there's incompatibilities, you're either gotta have to say that the incompatibility is illusory, it doesn't really exist, or you have to acknowledge the
Well,
incompatibility.
the world is illusory. I mean, the world is a manifestation in front of our eyes we're not seeing the world. We're seeing light bouncing off of photoreceptors in our eyes, interpreted.
Is
by
that
our brain.
illusory? Is that illusory though?
Well, I mean, it's illusory from that standpoint. We could be looking at pink elephants right now. That
I know,
pretend
but
to be houses,
Paul,
Like,
Paul, I'm trying to rescue from this. Okay, I know it's fun.
don't,
We all.
man. It's because it's too fun to be the way I am.
know.
So don't
I
rescue
know.
me.
I know. But the
Don't
thing
throw
is,
me a lifeboat when I'm sitting on a
Okay.
raft.
You're not.
drinking
The whole-
a beer already.
dude, the
okay?
raft has a giant hole in it, and you just think it's the
Well,
sound
you
of the
know what?
ocean.
Then
You think
I'll
it's the sound of the
swim to
ocean?
another one.
It's like this. You think that's the ocean sound?
This
So
one-
what I'm saying is, all right, let's just finish.
Go ahead.
Anyone who says, and for the chat listening, anyone who says everything is illusory, the thing, the mechanism, the methodology, the epistemic system you're using to determine everything's illusory also must be illusory. So you can't say everything's illusory. It's just
I
like
get it. I mean, we're
you
all
already
gonna,
get this. You already
I
get
do.
this.
I know. I do get it because we ran into the same problem with truth earlier, and
That's right.
a lot of these philosophical concepts. I got to be honest with you, man. I'll be honest. They're beyond me. They're beyond my capacity for understanding at this point. But I still contemplate the mystery. Is that okay?
Yes, actually, if you want to participate in the true mysteries, I'm going to get you to your nearest Eastern Orthodox parish for a divine liturgy, Paul.
Well, I live near Seattle, so I'm actually I'm the kind of guy that I will make good on this eventually. I'm a bit of a
Thank
hermit.
you. No,
But
that's
if you-
good.
If you will find me my closest Eastern Orthodox
Okay,
church.
deal. I'll text you on X. I'm following you.
Okay, yeah, and I followed you back.
Awesome.
So, fair enough.
Awesome.
I will go. I will go attend a service. And
W's in the chat.
What can I do in the Eastern Orthodox tradition in terms of wanting after the service to maybe speak to the
Oh yeah,
pastor?
hang out. There's always a coffee hour with amazing food, especially if you go to a Greek one. Some people go, well, no, go to a Russian
Would
one.
I be welcome in a more
Absolutely.
traditionalist?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
is my dress an
Just
issue?
no, you could dress the way you are right now.
Okay.
And you'd be fine.
This is how I always dress, so we're good.
Yep.
Okay.
Base.
All right. I don't want to be disrespectful because I am
No.
respectful of
Just
people's
don't go in your
tradition.
normal cutoff shorts that you
I
that
won't
you
wear my "fuck you" T-shirt.
Yeah, anything like that. You know, but I already trust
I know.
your
I don't own
discernment.
one.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
own one.
Yeah.
This one from DBAK says, made by Jimbob. Many world religions are practice/experience based and are not dependent on belief in one particular ideology. Others are. Which is Christianity?
I would disagree with the statement that all beliefs, all knowledge is theory laden and dependent on something rudimentary that you're assuming. So the question itself, I would reject the premise of the question, but to be charitable, you have to look at a worldview not from its mere practice, but whether or not its metaphysics, its morality and ethics, and its epistemology are all seamlessly tied together in a nice bundled branch down to a root we call Jesus Christ. And so I would argue that being someone who was an atheist, being someone who went New Age, ponytail, Taoism, Buddhism, Hindu, all of it. I did all of that. When it comes down to it, the worldview must be holistic, fully, a fullness. There has to be a fullness to it.
This one from Jason McGinty says, you've been determined to go to Christian worship, Paul, as per the invitation.
You're
from-
determined, yeah.
They say big W. And this one coming in
Well,
from, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I've been to a Christian, in good faith. I went to my brother's church a couple of times, and I found it to be a really pleasant and welcoming experience with good food before it and coffee afterwards and all that stuff. So it's not an unpleasant experience going to Christianity, but I just don't feel the Holy Spirit. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
I don't.
Yeah,
You got it.
makes sense.
This one from DBK as well says, made by Jimbob, some world religions are pluralists, others are exclusives. You might have to explain, just for some people that might not know those words. With which kind is Christianity? Pluralism is traditional to the entire Santana Dharma complex and the Taoist complex, yet
Yep.
that's all it says.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a good point. Christianity is exclusive, and what's interesting about orthodoxy, which I think Paul will really dive into, even if he's like sort of hesitant about all of it, like from just a philosophical learning theology perspective, there's a distinction in orthodoxy called logos spermaticos, and logos spermaticos explains that across cultures, civilizations, and worldviews, some truth can percolate to the top. And I think Paul in his conversation tonight is someone who kind of abides by this principle that there's truth in a lot of things. And
talking about genetic memory?
Well, no, not genetic memory. Like there are true propositions or true accounts of reality, how we experience things, that could percolate in different places across time in different theologies and cultures, right? It doesn't follow that because something percolates in a particular statement or account, that the wholeness of the faith of that theology is true or that worldview. But it does mean that if it's true, that truth can percolate in different places at different times across eras, civilizations. It necessitates that something must be ultimately true to even look at that thing and say it was true. Sure. So it necessitates one other thing, right? So that's what's beautiful when they talk about pluralism. You can reject pluralism and also accept that there are particular stances and views on things that could still be true in other things. They're just not getting the wholeness. And that's why orthodoxy is so beautiful, because we admit that other faiths and practices might have little bits of truth, but we're arguing for the wholeness of the truth, which I think Paul and other people listening, if you're about truth, you want to get the wholeness of it. You want to get the fullness of the truth.
Sure. Yeah, no, I did the best that I can, right? As a limited human being. Sure.
Yeah.
You got it. Are there any other topics? I've actually got a small gap in questions. Any topics that you guys wanted to hit but didn't get to?
Well, I mean, this went a different way than I thought it was going to go. Maybe it's the same thing for Jimbob, but I don't know. You know, the topic of who would be better at ruling the world. Let's just blow it up to the world, right?
Yeah.
That's what I promised my people. Yeah.
Me or you? Me or you?
Yeah. I'm talking philosophically, but we could boil it down to me or you. Yeah, we could do that too. But I'm just saying, like, secular humanism or Christianity, we're going to the genie. We're putting one in charge today. Mm-hmm. Let's just make our best hypothetical argument,
sure.
For our side.
Yeah, no, you already agree with me for the most part, and every element and category we covered is that, yes, you're a secularist. Yes, you see the value in these things. And ultimately, you're probably going to lean toward a structured system of society, which if the world was an extension of societies, plural, then it would be better to have a structured society that had embedded in it an assumption of human value. Christianity has, secularism doesn't. Teleology, Christianity has, secularism doesn't. Account for duties and obligations in society. Do you have a duty to reproduce, have families, build the future generations of society? Christianity has that. Secularism doesn't. Now, even if you wanted to be a secularist in this world, I've gotten a lot of secularists who admit that even though they're going to maintain their secular view on the beliefs of Christianity, they're partial and want to be a part of a structured society that is mostly Christians.
Okay. I would say that, like, a secularist society would be better because in a secularist society, if God appeared and said, hello, I'm not trying to be sacrilegious to you. I understand that's a thing. But
at least put an echo on it.
I could try. Yeah. Hello, this is you. All of you are wrong. You're
Jimbob's right.
Right. And it's just undeniable, right? Yeah. It's undeniable, right? I believe that secularists would go like, all right, God, we're done screwing around. Let's go ahead and do it anyway, right? Mm-hmm. And so I feel like I want to ask you this. Do you think that it's like your position on what a secularist is magnified by the fact that you're kind of in the fight pits with a bunch of people that are like, I'm going to pwn this Christard. And you're like, I'm going to pwn this seculoid. You know what I mean?
No, that's a good question. There might have been a time where that was true, where I was it was a little bit but no, I actually understand that most atheists, in fact, most Christians, they'll call it some Christians, are in a sort of like day-to-day, week-to-week system of operation. They're really not thinking about these deeper philosophical entailments and all this stuff. They don't want any part of it. They want to live their life. And the secularists generally aren't trying to convert the Christians, and the Christians actually generally, which I don't think is a good thing, are generally not trying to convert anyone else. And so I'm well aware, Paul, that the reality of the situation, this applies to politics and anything going on across our screens at massive volume, massive speeds, right?
Yeah.
Most people are just trying to figure out, like, can they get to the bank and to the softball game in time?
Sure.
You know, that's their reality. Yeah.
Especially parents. One of the superpowers I have is I call it no kids. You know what I mean? So there is no softball game unless, you know, I live far from my nieces and nephews too by circumstance. And so I don't have to do that all that often. And that's a nice thing because it means my wife and I can sit on our porch and drink coffee together and stuff.
Oh, nice.
You know, so I have a nice view on it, but I also know that I missed out on the kid thing. You know what I mean? I did want children at one point. I had to come to a position where I don't. And I at this point I don't, but you know, it sucked.
Yeah.
But from that perspective, though, just to put a button on my secular argument, the thing that draws me to it is its changing nature, its ability to adapt to times and eventualities that haven't been foreseen, and you know, discoveries that haven't yet been made. I believe wholeheartedly that if a discovery was made that aliens are real tomorrow, that there would be a whole like probably a plurality of Christians, if not a majority, would just be like, nah, man, those ain't aliens. This is bullshit. Because it would really be hard to make aliens compatible with a world that's 6,000 years old and a universe where this is the center and this is the center of God's intent, right?
Wait. So your argument that secularism is better is based on a hypothetical where aliens are real?
Yeah, I guess so. Them aliens, man.
All right. Well, you at least admit in good faith that that's not the best argument.
No, it really ain't. But I got to be honest with you, man. You know, we're talking about some crazy shit here. We're talking about, you know, a total world takeover of Christianity or secularism. So I think it has to get a little crazy, at least on my end.
Okay,
right?
Okay, Paul, until the aliens come, is it best to keep society at the local to the extreme national to the extreme global in the hands of people who at least put structure forward and call people into action, right? Because without action, like if you're a secularist, you could just say, I don't have an obligation to anything. I don't need to do anything. I've got no fight. Like you could just be in just like a drone. Yeah. And that's not participatory. And what I know of you, Paul, is that you participate in the world and it's not consistent. I'm going to just keep pressing you on this. Is that
please do.
Your being, your energy, your participation, your willingness is inconsistent with your worldview.
You know, maybe. Yeah, maybe so. I'm not trying to hedge, but you know, I've had many conversations. You're not the first person to tell me that. I got to be honest with you, but.
Let me guess. The other people were also leaning Christians.
Not all, but most. Okay, not all, but most. Let's be real. But that's okay. I don't discount anything that you've said tonight. And like I said, I'm an open-minded guy, and I do think that you might have a real negative view of a secular kind of the average secularist because you deal with a lot of rabid baby atheists like we talked about.
Let me take part of that as true and say I have a very rabid aversion to who I was as a secularist.
Okay. Yeah, me too. Well, me too at this point, like early on. 'Cause, before I knew what secular meant, I don't really count it, right? But like in my late teens, early 20s, started hearing those words, looked them up, started applying the term atheist to myself, right? And really having that be forward. Now I only say it if it comes up. Really, I was fine with it being labeled because I am an atheist, but
yeah, you don't actually fit the culture, at least online. And I understand what you're pointing out is like what we experience online, whether it's theists, even orthodoxy, like what you experience online. Let's say now that I'm Orthodox and you have this in your vernacular, anyone you might engage with online, it might not be the case that that's a representation of orthodoxy. Just so you know, just the same way you're saying to me, well, you have like this gross view of secularists. I have a gross view of the entailments, the logical conclusions of secularism.
Yeah.
It's not a judgment of the person in their heart. It's just that if you're going to be consistent, it really leads to a lot of insane things like, I don't know, like posthumous cadaver diddling, for sale. It's not inconsistent. It's not inconsistent.
Yeah, but we're a little slippery sloping now, aren't we? I mean,
that's a real thing. Like, if it's the case that harm reduction ends up being the pinnacle of atheist secularist ethics, then it's totally fine from a libertarian perspective, from a secular perspective, that as long as pre-death someone can sign off on someone doing something to their body post-death. Mm-hmm. Aside from the ick factor that most of us would get, the ethical issue is totally consistent with secularism.
Why would it be Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
We'll give you a chance to respond, and then we got to go to the next one.
Yeah, got you. I would just ask, like, I guess it's a stupid question. Why would but I want to hear what you would say. Why would a Christian have a problem with a non-Christian, I would assume, having their corpse diddled posthumously, consensually, contractually?
Non-Christian? Yeah, we would say it's a perversion of not only sex, but it's a desecration of the person.
Right, but what does that change about your life, though? Why would you want to ban that outright? Like, how is your day any different because a corpse is getting diddled in Poughkeepsie?
Yeah, that's Poughkeepsie. That's fun.
I like that
Poughkeepsie. One. Yeah. So I live in how it affects me is then I live in a society that allows posthumous corpse diddling.
But you're never going to see a corpse diddling on the street.
Doesn't matter. I know that there are humans who are made in the image of God who are so upside down and so perverse that they're diddling corpses, even though it has no effect on me from Poughkeepsie, right? Yeah. From Poughkeepsie, that it has no effect on me directly. It's not going to stop me from taking my kid to where they need to go, feeding my kid. It's more like the act against the human is an act against himself, and an act against himself is an act against me. It's an act against God. Yeah. It is an abomination. And so I don't know how else to answer that other than like an abomination, whether I do it or a person I don't even know does it. Right. Still has an impact on me if I'm not local. And maybe that's so true.
It has an impact on me too. I mean, I don't want to think about it, you know what I mean? But as far as it's like being contractual and stuff, if you want to get booty diddled or whatever as a corpse and you sign the thing and you're off in your bedroom or at a funeral party home that's made for this sort of activity or whatever. My day, I'm going to have my coffee just the same. I'm going to poop once or twice. Probably.
I know, but Paul, if only corpse.com existed, wouldn't you say something and actually advocate it doesn't happen?
I would be like, don't go to, like, I would tell everybody, when it came up, I'd be like, you probably shouldn't go to Only Corpse and sign away your corpse to get diddled. But, if you want to, I guess say I just don't tell me about it, okay? Because I want to think about what's happening.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, if there's no such thing as don't tell me about it unless you're a freaking a monk at this point. Agreed?
Well, I'm trying my best, man. I live deep in the woods, man.
Yeah, you're not getting away from the reality of reality, and so that's why I'm like, well, if secularism, by your own admission, ultimately permits corpse diddling, and that's not too far off, honestly, from some of these countries like doing it. Like, it's not actually that crazy from some of these positions. Well, the question comes back to it, and we'll move on to the next question is,
Sure,
well,
yeah.
if it's between Christianity that pushes against that and atheism and secularism that ultimately, if they're consistent, allows it, you're still, Paul, in every example of this conversation, you've been actually leaning toward a Christian side of ethics more so than a secularist.
I disagree, but I know that we need to move on. And
Good.
so I don't want to leave it hanging, but it's up to James.
One more question. This one for you, Jimbob. They had said, Jimbob, taking a holistic view of Christianity, how do you rationalize the barbaric and antithetical views of the Old Testament?
I don't think they're antithetical. You're smuggling that assumption in. The Old Testament and everything you thought was horrific, whether it's the Amalekites or God communicating of how to treat slaves once they were transported into a new nation, adopting those slaves, rehabilitating those slaves, feeding those slaves,
Having
clothing
sex
those
with
slaves. No, that's a miscommunication also of Roman. I think it's Romans. No, the reality is, even from a secular view, there would be a threshold at which intervention of a neighboring society that's doing horrific things would be justified. Now, you're not in a better position by saying if there was a neighboring tribe, a neighboring nation that was burning babies alive every Thursday as a part of their ritual. If you said, Paul, if let's say take Paul because he's here. If I said, Paul, would you help me in any way you know how to stop this from happening? He probably would say yes, even if there was a moment where he's like, well, I don't want to die, but I'll fund it or I'll recruit or something. He would help me stop the neighboring tribe from doing horrific things. Now, if you call that justice, we agree. If you call that an intervention on autonomy, then all you are is someone who's totally fine at defending such horrid acts of a neighboring country. So,
well, no offense, but to take the secular view on that, I would rather permit the relatively, like I'm trying to point out, harmless to my day and most people's day, a corpse in a sealed room, a dude diddling it, contractually obligated or not, whatever. The two people agree to do this and they're adults, right? I think that I would rather put up with a society that allows that than a society run by somebody, no offense, like you, who might decide that there's a scriptural interpretation that says, like, I shouldn't be smoking weed and kids shouldn't see me smoking weed or anybody smoking weed, so let's ban weed. Or Jesus said, turn the other cheek, so the shotgun that you keep to keep your family safe is coming with us, buddy. I'd be right on the front lines shooting, bud, at you. I'm not making a threat. I'm just saying.
No, I understand. But the thing is, you're already in a problem here because, like, if you say, well, I'm afraid of Jimbob ordering society based on Christian ethics, even if it meant you couldn't smoke weed in public or something, right?
No, private.
Private, we wouldn't actually have a way to pursue it.
But you would want to stop the guy in private from diddling a corpse.
Yeah, that's right. So there would be a threshold that even you
line moves. That line moves, and it's uncomfortable that line moves.
I know, but secularism has no line at which they draw where you should intervene.
I mean, I would argue that, like, you know, and once again, we get from whence cometh morality is the argument. I don't think we got time to have that whole thing. But I would argue that there is an evolutionary argument for what we call morality. It is beneficial to us as a species to treat each other better than not.
Paul, hold on a second. Is it treating someone better to stop them from fulfilling their worldly, fleshly desires?
It depends on what the desire is. I mean, if the desire is to jump off a cliff, then maybe you try and tell that guy, hey, man, don't do it.
Why? Why?
Because you can have a beautiful painting and you can have a wonderful child.
No. The question is whether Paul. The question isn't whether or not you should persuade them. The question is whether or not you have a legal or moral obligation to stop them physically from doing it.
Well, it would depend on I don't feel myself, I'm a moral judge sitting there going like, you should, if someone says I'm going to kill myself, you should say you have a painting inside of you, sir, and Jesus loves you. I'm not going to do that because I don't know what the fuck I would do in that situation.
Well,
to be
that's the
honest.
thing. Yeah, but you rely, and the topic of the debate is how to structure society. Do you agree that people should go to jail for crimes?
Well, yeah, but what
Okay,
are
hold on.
Well, yeah.
Hold on,
I mean,
Paul.
it depends on the
Paul,
crime.
Hold on a second. Who determines what a crime is from what moral position?
Politicians, right?
No. From what moral position? Politicians are elected. They're human beings that hold a certain
I would
view.
argue from a humanist position.
Okay,
ultimately.
so from a
hate you.
humanist position, then there shouldn't be illegal for two brothers to get married and adopt a kid. It shouldn't be illegal for corpse diddling. It shouldn't be illegal for public suicides, right? Just publicly in front of everyone. It shouldn't be illegal to have a erection next to a kindergarten class,
Yep.
right? It shouldn't be illegal.
No,
It can be. No, you
Are
can't.
you
can't.
waggling? Are you
Doesn't matter.
waggling the boner?
Doesn't
at-
matter. It doesn't matter because that's
What if you're walking by a kindergarten
hate to
and
do
you're
this.
thinking about? I'm
hate
sorry.
to do this.
You know what? Yeah. We have a heart out, and James, you know what? You're gonna have to tune
Lucky
into a
you.
hypothetical future debate to hear this.
Lucky
boner
you in this
waggling
instance.
argument.
I wish we could go longer because this has been a fantastic debate. People
It has.
have been giving so much positive feedback in the live chat. I've been like, wow,
Awesome.
this is like
Great.
we really should like do this, especially because I felt like
I'd be down, man. You just let me know.
And James, I bet you thought I was the furthest from the example of who you thought would produce such an event, right?
it was so peaceful.
Surprising.
It was very peaceful.
Well, I'm sorry for that. If you were hoping for fireworks, next time I will call Jim some names. and
Fuck
we will-
you.
Yeah, fuck you, buddy.
It
Look,
was,
you're a
was
poopy
fantastic.
face from your own worldview.
Yeah, you're a turd, buddy,
Yep.
and I'm
From
gonna
your-
squash you.
It was tremendous. I can't seriously. I'm not just saying that because people were like, and I have to be honest. Oftentimes when they are peaceful debates, people are kind of like meh. But they were like, wow, this is like really refreshing and it's peaceful. So
Cool.
this is just it hit the spot. So
I loved it. I had a
Yeah.
great time.
now, folks, I have a guest coming in. Paul, if you have to run, totally okay.
Don't.
Perfect. Well, then.
I'll mute up a little bit so your guest has room to breathe. But
I'm just excited you get to meet Jake. Okay, so folks, we are having Jake. Now I have to give credit where credit is due. This idea of having a cameo by one of the speakers from DebateCon come on and say, hey folks, like come on out to DebateCon. This was Jimbob's idea, actually. No joke. So that's how you know it's good.
I
Now
love that.
it is a great idea, is because the debaters are really busy, and so to have them on all the time, but for a 2-minute cameo, Jake, we're thrilled to have you. Let me know if you can hear me. How are you?
I can hear you just fine, James. I'm good, thank you. Typical to come past and hear a secularist talking about boner waggling on kindergartens. Typical, but
Yeah,
I'm doing
you
good.
have to
Thanks for
come to
having
a
me.
secularist to even hear the juicy details about boner waggling these days. That is true. People love to hear
Yeah.
about boners. Maybe not boners by a kindergarten, but we're not going to go too deep into that. That's where it was going. Tune in next time for that. How you doing, Jake? My name's Paul, by the way.
Good to meet you, Paul. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm really good. Australian, yes?
Yes.
All right,
Indeed.
good, bud. I've had a lot of Australian friends.
You
guys are-
Canadian?
No, I'm American. Californian by birth, Washingtonian by current residency.
Mm.
Yeah.
But folks,
How are you,
I'm a
Jim
weird,
Bob?
I'm an odd duck.
What's up, Drake? Hey, you
What's
doing?
going on?
How's it going?
Yeah, just fucking kickboxing me some fucking lady boys.
Hey, Jake, could you bum us a fucking ciggy?
Nah, you're a fucking poofter. You secular poofter?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I didn't want to get into it because I think it's going to make Jimbob not want to come back, but I am a bisexual dude. You know what I mean? Not for nothing.
That doesn't make
They
sense. You
al-
could only
they
have
always
sex
are.
with the opposite sex.
Well,
Uh-oh.
juicy.
I mean,
But
I beg to differ, but okay, you know what I mean?
Well, you could do something, but it ain't sex. At least
Gotcha.
that.
Yeah, we're dithering on definitions. Gotcha. Yeah,
We'll come back to
because I get you. I know where this is going, man. I know where it's going, Jim.
But folks, I got to tell you, Jimbob and Jake will be at DebateCon. Maybe someday we'll get Paul's ego out there. I got to tell you, folks, this is going to be a huge conference. You don't want to miss it. Both Jimbob and Jake will be debating live and in person. Come out and meet them.
What's
as
the
well
date?
as Planet Peterson, Dr. Richard Carrier. It is going to be a huge event. Come on out and meet everybody there. Tickets are linked in the description box. I do want to go back to kind of this. It's fun to have this kind of like group dialogue because Paul's ego, I'm just so won over by you. You have a very winsome personality. So we'll come back to this group chat, but I do want to just give a chance to say Jake and Jimbob. I suppose Jake, because you just jumped in, we're thrilled to have you at DebateCon. It's going to be a big, juicy debate. Are you ready for it? Are you prepared? Are you preparing already?
It's going to be huge. It's going to be juicy. One of the biggest and juiciest debate cons we've ever seen. Of course, I'm preparing for it already. Been preparing my little heart out so far. It's going to be amazing. Jimbob's also going to be debating. Andrew Wilson, Rachel Wilson. It will be full-on destruction from our end. We're going to leave our opponents in a smoldering heap of ashes, crying, and in a puddle of their own filth. So I can't wait for it.
Nice.
It's going to be
You know what? What is the date of DebateCon this year?
November 15th and 16th.
Oh, man, it's so close. It'd be so hard. I'm way out west. You know what? Next year, hook or crook, I'm going to come to DebateCon. And if I can finagle, that's a cool word, finagle away, I might do a run-in at DebateCon and clothesline Jimbob from the top rope. You know what I'm talking about? It's Paul's ego.
That's what
you'll be running in a fucking trench coat,
bro. You can't get on the top rope.
You're so right. You're so correct. God damn you. I'm sorry. That was bad. I'll take that back.
It's going to be, don't worry, we're not easily offended. We do appreciate Made by Jimbob. You'll also be debating Planet Peterson. It's going to be a juicy debate. Hope you're excited for it. In particular, can you remind me, because I know this topic was a unique one.
Yeah.
Naturalism.
Oh, naturalism. Yeah. What accounts for reality better, naturalism or theism?
That's right.
The topic you would probably think would happen at 9 a.m. on a Sunday after a party.
So you have to go to do the Sunday shift, Jimbo.
That's right.
Well, can I ask you a question? Can I ask an impertinent question on that, like a clarifying question? And this is one that I love to ask. ¿Por qué no dos?
Why don't we just have both?
Yeah.
What?
You get it? Like, why not? Why? Like, I get you're making an argument for one over the other, but ¿por qué no dos? Why not both?
Both what?
On both sides of that.
Theism and whatever.
Oh, because naturalism
has
naturalism has philosophical entailments. Because, like we discussed in our conversation here, is that if naturalism is true, then a mechanistic universe that's purely cause and effect doesn't allow for knowledge. And if you can't allow for knowledge because everything's a mechanism that's caused by a previous mechanism, then even coming to the conclusion that naturalism can explain things better would also be a determined effect you couldn't know was true. You'd just be in this endless loop of dominoes falling.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that perspective, but have you considered nuh-uh?
Yeah, that's what I hear.
No, I'm kidding. I got to be honest with you. I think one of the reasons why people liked this conversation, and maybe just, I'm not trying to put thoughts in their head, Jim, and I'm not trying to take time from Jake Rattlesnake either, because I want to, like, he's the one I want to show up to see. I want to try and make it because Jake the Snake Roberts used to be my favorite wrestler, and I'm just fucking ready for this dude to bring a big boa constrictor and throw it at Jimbob.
I hope that's not a euphemism.
Oh, okay. Well, are we back on boners again? I mean, is this how we're doing? You know what I mean? Right back to the boner.
Dude, I was hoping to see you at DebateCon. I've always wanted to meet Michael Moore's disabled lesbian sister.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I'm dead, man. I'll never be. Okay, I would like to announce my retirement from the internet. It's been a good 20 years, y'all, but I gotta go. Oh, that's good shit. I know what I look like, man. I've been told that. You know what's the funny thing? I'm hesitant to say this, but I'm going to drop it here because not everybody's watching. I did this for a specific reason for a project, Jake, in which I had to dress in drag. And my usually resplendent beard
Gone.
cut. It would have actually put Jimbob's beard to shame. In fact, I think our host has a picture of my beard prior to me cutting.
It didn't. It's a long beard isn't a better beard.
No, it wasn't because it was long. It was resplendent, sir. A beard that you might see festooned with beads and golden trinkets.
It looked like the back of the wagon of a bunch of gypsies stapled to your face.
It did not. You Christian.
What do you play the violin or something?
What would Christ do? Would he call it the back of a
yes,
gypsy
he'd call you a viper.
Okay. Well, he wouldn't say my face looked like the back of a gypsy wagon.
He might.
Would he?
He very well might.
Oh no.
This is, I have to say, we're thrilled to have you here, Paul's Ego, because it sounds like Jimbob mentioned earlier that you walk this interesting gray area where you've been canceled before. Because I know that modern day debate, despite us saying, hey, like we're neutral, we don't have any positions other than we think debate is good.
Yeah.
Some people would maybe be like, what are you doing going on there? But I'm just so encouraged to have you here. I hope you felt welcomed.
Oh no, I really did. And I'm really glad because, I'm real bad with DMs and stuff. Like I'm just not of that world. I'm from a pre-cell phone thing. And so like the other times that you've offered me debates and I didn't get back to you, that was not me going like, fuck this guy. That was me going like, I'm an idiot from, I was born in 1980, so I really don't know how cell phones work still. I pretend I do. And I definitely don't know how Twitter works. But here's the thing. I really had a good time doing this. And when I heard from my friend TJ, who I still work with, by the way, I'm always bad at doing this, so please allow me. If you liked me tonight and you want to see more of me, there's a few things you can do. Onion Nuggets is our main channel. It's Onion Nuggets with a Z at the end of it. That's where I make most of my money and where most of the people know me from now. If you like to listen to me ramble in a more informal environment, The Poltergeist. And if you like movie reviews, I run a pretty popular movie channel that I'm bringing back to life. It's been dormant for a while with a big review of Twilight that should be out this next month. And it's called Cinema for Cynics. So if you liked me, and I'm Paul's Ego everywhere, by the way, X, Reddit, Discord. I don't really use them much, but if you want to follow me, that's where you can find me. Thank you for having me, though. I just wanted to say that because I really did have a good time.
It's been our pleasure. And I have linked Paul's Ego along with Made by Jimbob. I'm going to throw Jake in there as well. Folks, check out our guest links. The guests are the lifeblood of the channel. And they're what make this channel fun and a good time. And so do check out our guests. Even if you disagree, there's a lot of value hearing it straight from them rather than hearing what someone says that they say. You hear their arguments right from them. So do check out our guests. But I do want to wrap up and let our guests go because it is, I'll let you guys go because it's been almost 2.5 hours. So thank you all for being here.
It flew by for me, man. And if you wanted to schedule like a longer debate, I've done 24-hour streams where I blathered the entire time. So 2.5 hours is light work for me. I'm sure it is probably for Jimbob too. You saw we could have kept going. So if you want to schedule like an extra long modern day debate, I'm your guy, especially if Jimbob's my opponent, because I like Jimbob and I think we could do this again.
Well, I'm not surprised you think that's a good idea, being that you think suicide is okay.
I didn't say that. Don't put that evil on me, Jimbob. Don't you put that evil on my name. You take that back. No,
I take it back. I'm sorry.
That would be awesome.
No. It would be fun, I think. So if you whenever you want to do that, you hit me up. We'll find a date. And anybody in the audience, whatever you like to argue with me, I'm on Discord a lot. There's links over on my Poltergeist thing quite often of the Discord I hang out in. If you want to talk to me, I'm a pretty reachable guy. I'm a pretty approachable dude. So yeah. Thank you for having me so much, James. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my
and thank you for taking time to talk with me too, Jimbob. I appreciate that. And thank you for reminding me of Jake the Snake Roberts, Jake Rattlesnake, and for being an Australian who faces down the bugs and the spiders for us. Thank you.
Man, someone's got to do it, hey? Thanks for having me on for this little cameo appearance, fellas. James, I will be seeing you in November and maybe even sooner. Even sooner, James.
Absolutely.
So maybe I'll be seeing everyone sooner than that.
Yeah.
Jeez, ominous.
Yeah, very soon. Not only in your dreams.
I'll be standing outside your bed, eh?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Any last, did you say any last goodbye, Jimbob?
No, thanks for joining us. Thanks everyone over at Modern Day Debate for watching. I'm sure this was a breath of fresh air considering most of the blood sports that we see. And go follow Made by Jimbob. Go follow Ortho Thugs too if you want comedy sketches and just weirdness from two funny people, myself and Hello Listener. We have a show called Ortho Thugs on Fridays, so just search that as well. Yeah.
You got it. I'm going to link that in the description as well, Ortho Thugs. And I want to say, folks, thanks for watching. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable. We'll see you at the next one. Oh, folks, go quick right now. Use that promo code pinned at the top of the chat, as that promo code is still good right now. Now is your last chance, because I'm going to deactivate. Let me open up the Zoom window so you can actually see me. I'm going to deactivate that code just because we're testing out different methods of promotion, you could say. So that's why it is really only during the stream that that code's going to be active. We're testing out different things, including ads, everything for DebateCon 6, learning Google Analytics, which has been, I have to be honest, I could figure out Google Ads well enough. Thanks for your super chat, last minute coming in. Let's see, Coast to Coast. Ghost says, who's debating that guy who couldn't open that jar? Wow. When have I been unable to open a jar? This one, I got to tell you, believe me. Marilyn, thank you for your super chat. There was also another one coming in about if I could fix someone's shoulder. I'm not that kind of doctor. I think obviously it was a joke. I want to be clear. I don't ever expect anybody to call me Dr. James. We put it in the branding, like, you know, with Dr. James Coons, but I would never, I don't care if anybody calls me Dr. James. You just call me James. And I want to say thank you for your support, though. We have all sorts of cool stuff I want to tell you about. Marilyn says, James, I'm no longer your sugar mama. Oh, my sugar Martin. What? Says, I went to massage school. What the? But I have to say, folks, thank you for your support. We are excited about the future. You are not going to, for real, use the code, get your tickets, meet these guys in person. Meet Andrew Wilson. Meet Rachel Wilson. Meet Made by Jimbob, Jake of Rattlesnake TV, and many others. Apostate Prophet, Inspiring Philosophy, Planet Peterson. Whew. But we are testing out a lot of stuff. Yeah. I had said that I can figure out Google Ads okay. And yeah. I think I, frankly, have kind of figured it out. But Google Analytics is like a whole other beast. It is so hard, but I'm trying to figure it out, basically to do conversion tracking. Let's see. Deacidal one. That's funny. I see your quote there in chat. But yeah, I want to say hi to you there in chat. Greg S., thanks for coming by. Dylan Moats, Uncle Paul, Strike One, Fady, Ibrahim. Thanks for being a member, Uncle Paul. Seriously. And thank you, let's see, Marilyn, Laughy Faces, and then Ryan Lopez, glad to have you here. Marilyn says, I'm not a dude. I do actually believe you. I'm pretty sure that you're not a dude. This one from Batman Darkest Night. Thank you for coming by. I see you there in the old live chat. And Alex Ojididu. Let me tell you, though. Here's what we're talking about. DebateCon, it's going to be huge. 2 days of debates. You only live once. You can be like me, and when I'm not here, if I'm not here, like Ryan hosted on Saturday, I'm watching almost always, not always. I'm usually just resting. I'm tired. And that's why I'm like, okay, Ryan, come on, I need your help. And I want to say thank you to Ryan for that. I also want to say thank you to TJ Kirk. TJ connected me with Paul's ego. And so I want to say a huge thank you to TJ Kirk. I've been in TJ's DMs, and he had actually recommended Paul a long time ago. And I had invited Paul a long time ago. And that's why he said, like, hey, sorry I didn't get back to you. But I just love Paul's authenticity. I never took it as like that he was just like, oh, fuck that guy. I knew it's always really busy. But I was just struck tonight with Paul's sincerity. When this is like a long time ago, I think was Drunken Peasants was popular. Because it was like everybody had heard of it. It was huge. It was like Modern Day Debate could only dream of having that kind of brand recognition, you could say. And I had a Christian friend, conservative Christian, and he had said, like, if I remember right, he was saying that he found the guys from Drunken Peasants likable. And I was kind of like surprised because I was always under the impression that Drunken Peasants was a lot of like atheists that would like smack talk Christianity. So I hadn't watched it myself, but that's what I'd heard. And so when I heard him say that, I was like, wow, that's interesting to hear him say that. That he said, he's like, the guys are still, like he didn't agree with everything they say, obviously. But he still found the guys likable. And now I see why. Because I'm like, Paul is like an authentic, sincere person. And I see now why, Paul is so loved. So I am grateful for all the guests made by Jimbob. Jimbob had that idea of having a speaker come in at the end, as I mentioned. Is that DebateCon is like, I'm just like a little guy in the background sending emails. It is like a huge community movement or effort that's moving it forward. There are so many people that help with DebateCon in all these different ways. People who are supporting it through like the Patreon meetings or like kind of like my soundboard. I can like ask them questions. They're like, I don't know if that's a good idea. It's almost like my unofficial board. There are people that are supporting it in terms of even just, I gotta tell you, when you guys hit like, we do appreciate that. Thank you for that support. When you're just watching, that helps make this a community. So I want to say thank you for your support. Thank you for your positivity. We're excited about the future. We are now in talks with no, it's not even 3. It's 4 different college campuses. I sincerely believe the future for modern day debate is bringing debates to college campuses. That's what we're going to be doing. This fall, we are at Holiday Inn for DebateCon 6. And I have no shame. I love Holiday Inn, actually. I have a lot of brand loyalty. And I'm not joking, actually. But we are getting to the point where this might be our last Holiday Inn because we might have future DebateCons being all on college campuses. No joke. So there are 4, as I mentioned, 2 of which are like, we'd be happy to host a DebateCon. That would be cool. So I'm very excited about that, or a variation of it. It might not be a 2-day. We'll see. It could be different things, but I'm just excited. I want to say thank you guys for your support. There are big things coming. There really are. This is just like the tip of the iceberg, as I think that as we get on more college campuses, there are going to be more and more that are like, hey, that sounds fun. Like, hey, what do you think? If you were on a college campus and if you are like, I would love to host a huge debate, even if it's just a one-off, like just one big debate on a, Monday night, Friday night, whatever you want. You're like, just like 2 big speakers. Like, that'd be awesome. It'd be fun. And it is fun, believe me. when you experience the tension in the room, it's really fun. But let me know. I'm at moderndaydebate@gmail.com. So last call. That promo code pinned at the top of the chat. Use that for 10% off your tickets for DebateCon 6. But, and use it right now because I'm about to deactivate it in like 30 seconds, is grab your tickets for DebateCon. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be epic. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your love. The future is bright. Big stuff coming. One of the campuses that we're working on this collaboration for DebateCon 6 is actually a big one, such that I'm like, ooh, baby. So yeah, there's just a lot of cool stuff coming up. So I am pumped. I am thrilled. I am thankful. It's hard to express just how much cool stuff is coming up. I just don't feel like, I don't even feel like I deserve it. It's just there's just so many cool opportunities that people are emailing and reaching out about. But keep an eye out because the future is bright, so you're going to see it yourself. And thank you for your support of Modern Day Debate. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable. We will see you at the next debate.